a complete exploration of Transformers. Animated 2007 to 2009. The Transformers need no introduction as it's one of the most celebrated fandoms, and let's face it, the coolest ones. There are so many toy lines, plots and continuities that keeping track might make your head hurt. But don't worry, we are here to lessen your burden with a rundown on another classic from the Transformers lore. Transformers Animated was produced by Cartoon Network Studios and Hasbro Entertainment. It ran for 3 years with 3 seasons and 42 episodes, which chronicles the everlasting conflict between Autobots and Decepticons, while the Autobots are accompanied by their small human companions. In this story, the Great War has already happened, and the focus is on more mundane problems. In this video, enjoy the fan service as we bring you the complete lore of the show. Also, if you appreciate our efforts in bringing you this content, do hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more. Season 1. Transform and Roll Out. Part 1. The series opens on a young Optimus Prime watching the historical footage of the war between Autobots and Decepticons. A war the Autobots won after eliminating the Decepticons for good. These images are from the original cartoon Transformers, 1984. Ratchet interrupts Prime and directs his attention to the young bots Bulkhead and Bumblebee, who are currently entangled in rocks as they try to repair the space bridges. The other, less hyped-up member of the group is Prowl, who shows off some reckless skills as he uses a throwing star to break the rocks blocking the space bridge node. Crisis strikes when suddenly the bridge gets activated and Optimus Prime gets into the business of heroically saving his teammates and stabilizing the bridge. His skills and demeanor impress the fellow Autobots, and Prime informs them he trained at Cybertron's military academy, which makes the others wonder why he is involved in a maintenance group. However, curiosity can wait, as they uncover a large glowing chest amidst all the rubble. Ratchet recognizes the object, but before anything can be done, Teletran 1 picks up the signal of a Decepticon ship. But now that's impossible, right? Unfortunately, not as Ratchet explains that the chest contains the All-Spark, which is the source of all things Transformer. He contacts Cybertron Elite Guard, and Sentinel Prime teases Optimus until Optimus reveals what he has got. When Sentinel patches in with Ultra Magnus, he asks Optimus to stay put till he sends reinforcements. Optimus ignores the instructions, and he is right. Magnus considers it to be a scout ship, but it's not. The Decepticons on board the command ship are Starscream, Lugnut, Black Arachnneia, Blitzwing, and lastly Megatron. Starscream doesn't believe the Autobots have got the All-Spark, and they get into an argument, when Megatron arrives, shutting them up. He volunteers to get the All-Spark and jumps off, unaware that his duplicitous second-in-command, Starscream, has fitted a bomb on him. Megatron attacks the Autobot ship, and the Autobots are intimidated by the sheer sight of the villain. As the bomb goes off, they activate the Transwarp, and the Autobot ship, along with Megatron, plummets through it. The opening sequence of this episode also features Megatron's robot form, along with Starscream and Bumblebee's vehicle form. Meanwhile, the Decepticons flee, except for Starscream, who is busy appointing himself to be the new leader. The space bridge blows up, taking Starscream along with it. On the other side, the Autobots are about to enter Earth's atmosphere, and Megatron is inside, who demands the All-Spark. But Optimus Prime manages to kick him out. Megatron's head lands in Paw Paw, where a young little Isaac Sumdac finds it, while Prime and his team go into a stasis pod before he steers the ship away from the city and it plunges into Lake Erie. 50 years later, humans on Earth have domesticated robots, and an older Isaac Sumdac shows kids how he has infused a roach with microbots. Isaac's daughter Sari and her robot dog Sparkplug are also there. But as the roach starts growing uncontrollably, it spells more trouble than solution. Transform and Roll Out, Part 2. The monster Nano Roach continues to grow and terrorize, while Isaac panics as his little girl, Sari, is still inside and looking for Sparkplug. Captain Fanzone, SWAT team, fire trucks, ambulances and robot drones arrive at the spot and attack the beast to no avail. Fanzone attacks the monster with a bazooka, but it only worsens the situation as the pieces seem to get back together, while another falls into the water and enters the dormant Autobot ship underneath. The intruder alert brings the Autobots online and they send out a probe to scan what's going on. The Autobots examine the situation and scan the vehicles so that they can adapt and blend in. Everyone except Ratchet goes out to help, while he stays behind to examine the roach remnant. As the rest of the Autobots approach the monster, they notice Sari and consider her a pet. At first, Sari is scared of the talking vehicles, but when the monster catches Sari, the Autobots transform to rescue her. Captain Fanzone, Isaac, and the rest of the people are awestruck, and while Bumblebee catches the child, the rest go after the monster. Isaac finds the Autobots eerily similar to something, and we know what he's talking about. Fanzone doesn't trust and sends the drones to attack Bumblebee. On the other hand, Prowl's arrogance doesn't serve him well when he goes after the roach himself and gets absorbed by it. Prime calls for Ratchet's help, and it looks like Prime is not yet accepted as a true magnificent leader. Although the show first aired on Cartoon Network, it was later revived on the Hub, also known as Discovery Family. As a result, the Cartoon Network Studios logos were cut out. Anyway, Ratchet got the cure, and Bumblebee is appointed to deliver the code, but the roach is now using Prowl's intelligence and comlink to defend. Bumblebee still succeeds, but Prowl is endangered and needs immediate mechanical attention. Sari forces Bumblebee to let her tag along, but once they are back in the ship, Sari's antics get Bumblebee in trouble. Bumblebee secretly ejects Sari, and she finds herself in the room with the Allspark. As she touches it, energy enters her security card. Prime finds her and brings her back to where everyone else is congregated. Her security card suddenly reacts, and as Sari inserts it into a slot in Prowl's chest, bringing him online. The Autobots take Sari back, and after a few clarifications, they are hailed as heroes. Meanwhile, somewhere in space, Starscream seems to have made it alive. He promises to get the Allspark from the Autobots and finally detects where they are. Transform and Roll Out, Part 3. Now that Autobots are out in the open, they try to fit in, but it proves a different kind of challenge. Optimus Prime notes that they are programmed to respect all life, including that of the organics, which are the humans. Prime gets a little flabbergasted after knowing how organics are formed. Anyway, they need a place to rest their butt, and Sari shows them her dad's abandoned building that he got from a merger. Meanwhile, they are being watched by Starscream, who is ready to attack. The next day, Isaac Sumdac inaugurates the new fully automated transit system FARTS when Starscream makes his presence known. He attacks the Autobots and demands the Allspark, and even threatens to hurt Sari. Bumblebee comes in between and gets hurt. Starscream then takes an unconscious Bumblebee, Isaac, Captain Fanzone, and the mayor hostage inside the FARTS train and gives the Autobots a mega cycle to come up with the Allspark. Sari makes a plan, but nobody's ready to listen to her, because that's not what we expect of little girls. However, Sari manages to make them listen, with a bit of emotional manipulation and crying. The Autobots are convinced, and while Prime distracts Starscream with the Allspark, Prowl takes Sari to the train. Sari cures Bumblebee with her key, and although Starscream realizes what's going on, they still manage to escape. One of the most exciting parts of this series is that after voicing Megatron for decades, this is the first time David Kaye voices the hero Optimus Prime. However, he is the second person to do so after Gary Chalk. Starscream, Prime, Ratchet and Bulkhead engage in a game of catch with the Allspark. At one point, Starscream gets his hands on the Allspark and uses it to blast a few blocks of Detroit, but Prime is not the one to give up. He climbs a building and goes head-to-head with the Decepticon. As both of them struggle with the Allspark, it opens and blows off Starscream, while Optimus Prime and the Allspark crash on the road. Prime dies after knowing what it feels like to be a hero, but Sari tries to revive him with the key. It doesn't work at first, but then it miraculously connects with the Allspark, bringing Prime back. Later, the Autobots repair the damage done, and the people of Detroit, including Isaac, are grateful, but he fears how they will judge him if they knew he is sitting on Megatron's head and used it to bring about the robotic revolution. As he leaves, a red eye in Megatron's head glows in the dark. However, this is just the start, and soon we will be encountering new and weird bots, crazier Earth-based villains, and Starscream's sneaky attacks.
Antiquated machines, destroy him!
Home is where the spark is. Dressed like Robin Hood, the angry Archer robs an armoured car carrying bank money. He tries to escape by riding a fire engine, but it's Optimus Prime. Prime catches the culprit and gets clicked. Angry Archer is based on Hasbro's lead Transformer toy designer, Aaron Archer, and both look alike. It appears shutterbugs are catching our Autobots everywhere, and the only safe place is their hideout. In the meantime, Prowl has developed a fascination for the natural life form, but Bumblebee keeps driving him mad. Meanwhile, Sari tries to sneak into her dad's lab and uses the keycard until it gives her access. But this little act is soon going to have repercussions as the spark wakes up Megatron. However, there is not much Megatron can do with just his head. In the empty lab, Megatron pulls video recordings of Starscream confessing his crime and the Autobots carrying the Allspark. Megatron gets into action and controls the machines and the Pocketbot. He sends one to sneak into Sari's bag as she goes to a slumber party with the Autobots. It's all fun and games at the Autobot lair as Sari tutors the Autobots on how to play Twister or use a sleeping bag. Speaking of games, Transformers Animated is known to have the best toy accuracy between a show and its toy continuity, all while keeping its unique style. Meanwhile, Megatron uses the Pocketbot to search for the Allspark, but when he can't find it, he decides to kill the Autobots. When Sari starts telling a ghost story, Sari secretly uses her key to control a few machines and scare Bumblebee. Coincidentally, Megatron also controls the assembly line robots at the same time and attacks. Prime saves Sari from a barrage of fire, and she confesses that it's not her. The distant Prowl also appears, thinking that the party is getting out of hand, but he is quickly proven wrong. The Autobots fight the robots, and Prowl realizes they are being detected by motion sensors. With the rest of the Autobots injured or trapped, Prowl uses a strategy of using agility and stillness to get to the control panel, but Megatron gets him. It now rests up to Bumblebee and Prowl to guide him to finish the task. Megatron also cuts open a fuel tank, with the intention of blowing up the Autobots, but the team notices it and flings it into the air. It appears the team is finally getting to work well together, but unfortunately, Bulkhead smashes the Pocketbot while trying to catch it. While the Autobots remain unaware of who or what is behind the attack, Megatron decides it's time he uses Sumdac to arrange a body. The episode still ends with Prowl and Bumblebee playing Twister.
Leave him alone! You wish to give him a hand?
Total Meltdown. The episode opens on Optimus Prime, Ratchet, Bulkhead and Prowl watching TV when they come across a wrestling show arranged by Prometheus Black. Black has used biochemical makeover to upgrade humans, but that's not the most shocking thing ever, as he has arranged a match between a machine and an upgraded human. To their horror, the machine is none other than Bumblebee. Of course, Sari is accompanying him, but the opponent is a decrepit old person called Cyrus Colossus Rhodes. Cyrus upgrades into a colossal human when pistons in his back pump some form of biofluid into him. Bumblebee gets quite a beating from Cyrus, while Captain Fanzone watches from the VIP area. Black approaches him with the offer to use the upgraded humans in the Detroit Police Department instead of Sumdac's bots. Both of their aversion to machines helps in making the case, but thanks to a little guidance from Sari, Bumblebee is able to strike back, but only momentarily, as an enraged Cyrus pumps more fluid to grow even stronger, and the fight leaves the arena to go into the parking lot. Just as Bumblebee is about to get thrashed, the Autobots arrive and take down Cyrus. They tease and mock Bumblebee for being short, and Sari joins in. While the Autobots engage in laughter, a disgruntled Fanzone rejects Black's offer, who fumes in anger and decides to get payback. He even obtains an Autobot fluid from the arena for his research. Two important things happen in this episode. Number 1, Bulkhead can transform his back kibble into a chair, while Prowl is revealed to be a ninja. In his lab, Black infuses Autobot fluid with his biochemicals to create something blasphemous. However, his sponsor, Porter C. Powell, refuses to provide any more funds or prisoners as test subjects. In anger and frustration, Black trashes his lab equipment, and what happens next is nothing new to the superhero world. The acidic fumes turn Black into something monstrous. Sumdac also faces failure when his latest model of police drone explodes, and Sari takes its part to Ratchet, who suspects sabotage. Sari realizes that her father is in danger, and the Autobots roll out to save him. By this time, Black has arrived at Sumdac's building and calls himself Meltdown. He corrodes doors and walls with his hand and confronts Sumdac. Sari and the Autobots also arrive, but a force field from the auto-defense module stops them from getting in. Ratchet manages to pierce a hole, but only Sari and Bumblebee get in, while Bulkhead gets stuck, while the rest are attacked by Cyrus, who has returned after some more upgrades. While Sari tries to take down the force field, Bumblebee picks up Isaac and runs away from Meltdown. Sari succeeds and reunites with Dad, but Meltdown still tries to attack. Bulkhead arrives and picks him up, but the acid corrodes even the Autobot alloy, causing Bulkhead pain. Outside, Prime and Prowl realize that the sound of a church bell disrupts Cyrus's organic circuits and uses it to subdue him. They arrive in the Sumdac lobby just after Bumblebee takes a shot while protecting Bulkhead. Prime covers Meltdown with the bell, but it doesn't work, so they decide to use the force field to trap Meltdown in a bubble. The plan works, and finally, the Autobots apologize to Bumblebee for calling him short. However, it might be a bad decision after all, as he will not let others forget it for a while. Blast from the past. Sari takes the Autobots to a dinosaur theme park called Dino Drive to teach them something about the history of Earth. On their way, Bulkhead topples several cars and looks like he is having trouble moving around without destroying things. The Autobots are impressed by the animatronic dinosaurs, but when Bulkhead tries to make a pteranodon fly, he creates a huge mess as several robots get destroyed. Meanwhile, Megatron watches the footage and gets an idea. He reveals himself to Isaac Sumdac, but hides details and lets Sumdac assume that he is a friend to Autobots. Megatron convinces Sumdac to work with him and not reveal him to his so-called friends, the Autobots. Megatron helps Sumdac repair and upgrade the dinosaurs, but he does something a little extra. In the meantime, Prowl tries to teach Bulkhead how to control his motion and strength. Their lair is too small a place, and so they move on to the island in Lake Erie, but even there Bulkhead destroys a few trees. Later, when Sumdac reveals the Dinobots to the public, they quickly turn on the humans and the Autobots come to rescue. Bulkhead tries to follow Prowl's teachings, but it misfires. So Ratchet and Bumblebee combine their magnetism and electricity to shut off the Dinobots. Sari gives them an extra boost with her key, and it finally subdues the Dinobots. The Dinobots have the same colors as the Generation 1 cartoon. At his lab, Sumdac wonders what went wrong, while Megatron senses something Cybertronian inside the Dinobots. He reassesses his own grim situation, and if he needs to change his plans, suddenly the Tyrannosaurus starts picking up Megatron's words. He names himself Grimlock and calls himself the leader, ignoring Megatron. The other Dinobots, Swoop and Snarl, agree, while Tutor Bot suddenly starts informing how dinosaur fossils power cars and trucks. The Dinobots start hating them. Megatron uses the opportunity to turn the Dinobots against the Autobots and encourages them to use the fire breath feature that he has secretly installed. Soon, the Dinobots start rampaging through the city, bringing out the Autobots. Bulkhead surprises everyone by suggesting they lure the Dinobots to a safer place. as the Autobots transform, it makes Grimlock angrier, and he orders the Dinobots to attack. Sumdac and Megatron watch everything. Sumdac realizes that Megatron has added the special features, but Megatron pleads that he only wanted a body and so tried out different features. Back at the battle site, Prowl suggests that Bulkhead go back to being himself, and it works in their favor. Optimus Prime notices Tar and Bulkhead throw the Dinobots into it, trapping them. Sumdac informs the Autobots that he will melt down the Dinobots the next day, and Prime agrees as they are too dangerous. Prowl doesn't want them gone, and the next day, Prowl and Bulkhead shift them to the island, hiding them with a forest hologram. However, the episode ends on a thrilling note, as Grimlock reveals he can transform with an Autobot insignia.
And I don't have it anymore.
The thrill of the hunt. Ratchet doesn't feel good about using auto parts when he suddenly feels his old war wounds tingling. Ratchet senses something evil, and soon there is a blackout. Optimus Prime, Ratchet and Bumblebee soon encounter a spiked muscle car. The incident takes Ratchet to a flashback field tech. Ratchet tends to an Autobot intelligence officer called RC. Ratchet uses his EMP generator to deactivate her temporarily to replace her legs, but RC worries that it will wipe her memory. Ratchet returns to the present, when he is almost run over by the muscle car. Later at their hideout, Optimus inquires Ratchet if everything is all right, but he doesn't want to say anything. And as he watches a race between the police and the muscle car, Ratchet again goes back into flashback mode. This time, Ratchet remembers how he and RC got caught by a bounty hunter. As Ratchet snaps back into the present, and the Autobots rejoins the chase, he realizes the muscle car is actually bounty hunter Lockdown. Ratchet and RC were the prisoners of Lockdown, who mostly worked for the Decepticons. Lockdown is also notorious for always taking parts and weapons off the Transformers for his own upgrade, or as trophies, and Ratchet's EMP generator was lost the same way. Art director and character designer Derek Wyatt had a different idea for Lockdown. Wyatt wanted Lockdown to look like the Frankenstein monster, donning the parts of other Transformers. In the present, Optimus Prime confronts Lockdown, who incapacitates him with the EMP generator and abducts him. Lockdown explains that there is a bounty on Prime's head for killing Megatron. It is revealed to be Blitzwing who has set the price. On the other hand, everyone looks for Prime, and Prowl finds that Lockdown's ship is in the middle of the city, masquerading as a warehouse. The Autobots finally arrive in front of the ship, but Lockdown is able to take them down. However, this was only a plan to get Lockdown. Ratchet not only subdues Lockdown, but also rescues Optimus Prime, which reminds him of erasing RC's memory to prevent anybody else from accessing crucial data. Back in the present, Ratchet defeats Lockdown and destroys his ship in revenge for RC. As the ship goes down, Ratchet escapes with Prime. And finally, Ratchet agrees to share his pain with Prime. Nanosec. Bumblebee is watching the fireworks when a thief named Nino Sexton decides it can be a good escape car. Bumblebee toys with the thief for a while, but Bulkhead arrives and starts an argument with Bumblebee. Sexton tries to escape, but Bulkhead stops him by using his wrecking ball. It only breaks the boardwalk, and the two Autobots fall into the water, while Optimus Prime catches Sexton. Meanwhile, Megatron is annoyed that the Earth materials are not enough, and suggests that Isaac use an element called dystronium to build his parts. However, only a small amount of dystronium is made on Earth. The next day, Bumblebee is reprimanded by Prime and prohibited from using his thrusters, while Sari gets upset as she's unable to show off her dad's latest creation, the turbo boosters. At the same time, Isaac receives troubling news about a turbo blade cyber suit making the test subject go haywire. Isaac agrees to check it, but Megatron wants the dystronium, which could become highly unstable and cause an explosion if transported across the town. As Megatron eyes the cybersuit image, you can guess what he wants. It happens soon, as Sexton is anonymously bailed out and handed the cybersuit package. It's true that the entire Transformers saga stemmed from toys, and it has garnered a lot of fans. Interestingly, Derek Wyatt is one of the few Hasbro employees who were already a fan before being employed. Now, coming back, Bumblebee continues to behave like a naive teenager as he refuses to blend in with the traffic, while being reprimanded by Prowl, who uses a holographic rider, to Bumblebee's retort that a driverless motorcycle doesn't blend in either. They suddenly witness the police chasing Sexton, who has started using his suit to rob banks. Sexton assumes the name Nanosec, and although he is successful in robbing money in a nanosecond, he finds the loot rather heavy. Prowl and Bumblebee attempt to catch him, but Nanosec is faster. Bumblebee's overconfidence makes him crash into railroad barriers and get stuck on tracks. He is saved by a nanosecond when Bulkhead manages to stop the train. Meanwhile, Megatron contacts Nanosec and offers him $50 million for delivering the Dystronium. And as proof, he provides Sumdac's private ATM code. As Nanosec steals the Dystronium, the Autobots are alerted to the heist, while Bumblebee remains upset as he is stopped from using the turbo booster. However, just as the others leave, Sari uses her key and helps Bumblebee rush through town. He proves more of a nuisance than help as he goes out of control and knocks into Prime, who has to let Nanosec go. Bumblebee and Sari go into reverse to prevent falling from a bridge, but again they knock into Prime. Ratchet manages to catch Nanosec and examine the contraband, which he recognizes as highly volatile Dystronium. Bulkhead also gets a look at Nanosec and realizes Sexton has lost his hair color, so speed comes at a cost after all. Once again, an out-of-control Bumblebee appears, knocking Nanosec free, when Ratchet prompts that B should get in his robot mode, and it works. Finally, without any modification, the team catches the Speedster, who has now aged drastically. Bumblebee becomes the hero as he uses the boosters to take and chuck the unstable Dystronium out of Earth's atmosphere. It explodes, and Bumblebee catches fire as he plummets back. Thanks to Ratchet and Prime, B is cooled down, and Nanosec is arrested by the police. Along came a spider. It's Halloween time, and Sari brings Bulkhead, Prime and Bumblebee for pumpkin shopping. Optimus Prime comes across a spider decoration and remembers his past. On an organic world, friends Optimus Prime, Elita 1 and Sentinel Prime examine the webbings and wonder if there is a real Decepticon ship nearby. Sentinel wants his hands on the energon inside the ship, and Elita 1 is intrigued by the history. They venture inside despite Prime's protest. Snapped back to the present, Prime gets startled. Later at base, Bumblebee dresses up as a vampire, while Bulkhead wears a fumigation cloth to appear as a ghost. Sari uses her key to prank Prime with a fake spider, but he gets scared and slashes it. Prime asks Sari to be more cautious about using the key. He is again taken back to the memory of when Prime, Sentinel and Elita 1 are attacked by a large spider. They take down the spider, but more come, and they have to fight back. Prime comes back to present when Sari calls him to show him her costume, which is of Optimus Prime, but from Transformers 1984. Sari mocks Prime and then takes Bumblebee and Bulkhead for trick or treating. However, this time, Bumblebee notices a large spider. Optimus has been listening through the comlink, and so he rushes out. In the past, the Autobots come across the wreckage of the Decepticon ship and a surplus supply of energons. However, there is also something else: large eggs hatching large spiders. As the Autobots start defending themselves against the spiders, Elita's power downloading ability gives out and she falls. Prime is unable to grab her, and as Sentinel approaches to help, Prime stops him as the cavern is about to collapse. As the two male bots come out, Prime finds that Elita's energy signature has gone off, while Sentinel blames Prime, and now we know why there's no love shared between the brothers. Meanwhile, in the present, Sari gets kidnapped by a giant spider, who reveals herself to be Black Arachnneia. The character is taken from Beast Wars, Transformers 1996, but she is not the only one. The series has, in fact, borrowed from every continuity. The Decepticon uses her venom to paralyze Bumblebee and Bulkhead. She then declares that Sari is safe, while Sari tries using the key to revive the Autobots to no avail. Black Arachnneia notices that the Allspark is not affected by organics and demands the key when Optimus Prime arrives. Black Arachnneia is a little startled to see Prime and fights back. She kidnaps Sari again, but Prime pursues her and rescues Sari. As the two Transformers fight, Black Arachnneia reveals she is Elita 1, who got stung by the spiders and changed into a hybrid being. Black Arachnneia blames the Autobots for not finding her and justifies choosing the Decepticons. She grabs the key from Sari and uses it on herself to remove the organic part, but it causes all other organic life forms surrounding her to wither, including Sari. Bumblebee and Bulkhead save Sari when Black Arachnneia throws her over the ledge. The Allspark starts killing Black Arachnneia, and Prime realizes she can't survive without the organic half. He takes out the key and asks her to come back, but Elita 1 stings Prime and leaves. Later, Prime returns the key to Sari, who promises to give it a rest, except Bumblebee might still need a little bit of repairing. Elsewhere, Black Arachnneia cries on a rooftop. Is there a hope after all? Sound and fury. It's Sari's birthday, and Bulkhead takes her toy shopping. Sari wants something musical but loud, but the two are attacked by Professor Princess, a little villainess riding a My Little Pony. She is on a mission to violently end the violent toys, and since Bulkhead is quite flabbergasted, Sari uses the key to power the sonic systems to take down the princess. In the lab, Isaac ponders what to gift his daughter, as she has already forgotten her last year's toy, Spark Plug. Megatron volunteers to help, but of course he is serving himself. At the birthday party, the children of Sumdax's employees arrive with toys, but they are weirded out by Sari's antics. However, the Autobots arrive and entertain the kids. Bulkhead tries his best to participate, but causes more damage, and so the children don't choose to ride him. Sari and Bulkhead feel left out, but Bulkhead prepares to gift her a xylophone when Isaac reveals the toy musical robot he and Megatron created. Sari gets awestruck by the new toy, Soundwave, and forgets Bulkhead. She starts spending more time with the toy, and also uses her key to upgrade it, as Megatron plans to make Sari upgrade Soundwave until it can serve as his body. Bulkhead worries when Sari doesn't hang around anymore, and when he goes to check in on her, he notices Soundwave move. Megatron realizes he must separate Sari from Bulkhead, and uses Soundwave's voice modulation system to mimic Bulkhead's voice. Megatron manages to create a rift between the two friends. Another upgrade with the key enables Soundwave to use the sonic force to control other bots. The next day, Sari takes Soundwave to the park for an impromptu concert. Bulkhead arrives to warn her, but she refuses to listen. Megatron uses tricks to create further misunderstandings between Bulkhead and Sari. Sadly, even the other Autobots misunderstand Bulkhead. Later, Megatron tries to test Soundwave, but to his surprise, it has now grown self-aware. Soundwave refuses to take any orders from either Sari or Megatron. He believes humans should serve machines and not the other way around. Megatron, being Megatron, seizes the moment to make Soundwave a Decepticon and turn him against the Autobots, who are supposedly traitors to machines. Thus begins Soundwave's revolution, as he turns all the robots in Detroit against the humans. Interestingly, Transformers Animated is the first series since Transformers Armada 2002 to not use CGI for the robotic characters, and yet the artwork is precise. Moving on, the Autobots also roll into action, and Bulkhead realizes it's Soundwave. Unfortunately, he is left to fend for himself against some drones. The Autobots are further thwarted by Soundwave's voice modulation system, which intercepts their comlink. Meanwhile, Sari is kidnapped by her tutorbot and is taken underground to meet Soundwave, who intends to finish her. Prime sends Bulkhead to confront Soundwave, and he pretends to be angry with Sari to get close to Soundwave and destroy him. It's really odd that Bulkhead fails to notice the Decepticon logo. Sari and Bulkhead reconcile as Sari realizes her mistakes. She even plays with the xylophone while Megatron stews in anger. But as a last remnant of Soundwave still flickers with Decepticon icon, it's possible that he will be back.
Peekaboo, I see you!
Lost and Found. The episode starts off with Blitzwing and Lugnut arriving on the moon. Lugnut goes around smashing things, and the two argue. They are looking for Lockdown, and Lugnut, the Megatron loyalist, claims that he knows Megatron is still alive. Back on Earth, Sari manages to annoy Ratchet as she plays hockey with Bumblebee, Prowl, and Bulkhead. She is again using her key for cheating, but it suddenly activates and two streaks of light cross the sky. It's Lugnut and Blitzwing who start wreaking havoc as soon as they arrive to lure in the Autobots. Their wishes are answered as the Autobots arrive, but they have left an angry Sari behind. The Autobots and Decepticons get into a fight, and the Decepticons prove stronger. In a more anticlimactic situation, Lugnut's rocket fist levels a large area, keeping the Autobots at bay and rather astounded. Meanwhile, Megatron assesses that Lugnut is loyal and only contacts him. The devoted Decepticon immediately takes off with a bewildered Blitzwing, leaving the Autobots equally confused. However, Blitzwing doesn't appreciate this and gets into a fight with Lugnut. They crash on an army base and scan the aircraft and tankers. Blitzwing has a multi-personality disorder. His crazy side takes over as he tries scanning both. Captain Fanzone and troops arrive a bit late and are unable to detect the disguised Decepticons. As we mentioned earlier, several members of the staff are fans of the franchise, and so if you are a hardcore fan yourself, you might notice too many gags and references from all the Transformer versions. In fact, unofficial fan terms were also used in the series. The arrival of the Decepticons makes the Autobots realise that they must leave Earth for its own good, but Sari won't have it. However, Prime asks her to work with grumpy old Ratchet and use the key in repairing their ship so that they can take off. On the other hand, Megatron sends information about the key to Lugnut, while Blitzwing remains clueless and admires the city. Blitzwing and Lugnut confront the Autobots and Sari at Lake Erie. Blitzwing freezes the lake, but Lugnut accidentally blasts a hole for Sari and the Autobots to get in. While Sari and Ratchet enter the ship, the rest of the Autobots fight the Decepticons. Sari argues with Ratchet and leaves for the cargo bay where the Allspark is kept. She tries to sabotage the ship, but the key activates the Allspark chest, and a vision of the key, along with Megatron's head, followed by Megatron appears. Sari gets scared and opens the hatch. As water rushes in, Ratchet saves her and reveals how he has two become attached. Sari confesses her crime, and Ratchet understands while she, too, agrees to help. The duo brings the weapons back online and helps take down the Decepticons, who are shot off and land on the surface of the lake in pieces. Later, Sari helps repair Bumblebee and behaves like Ratchet, while the old Autobot declares that repairing the ship will take long, so they are going to stay. Worse fate awaits the Decepticons, as their call for help is not answered by Megatron, but by Starscream, who seeks their loyalty in exchange. Survival of the fittest. Being a keeper of the Allspark key, Sari is always in danger of being attacked by Decepticons, and so Prowl tries teaching her ninja skills, which might be too advanced for an 8-year-old. However, danger often comes from unexpected sides, and in the middle of the night, Sari gets abducted by Swoop the Dinobot. Isaac notices Sari missing and the signs of destruction. He immediately notifies the Autobots and the police. The next morning, Captain Fanzone questions Isaac and the Autobots when they come across footage of the Dinobot kidnapping Sari. Prowl and Bulkhead get worried as they have still not informed the other Autobots about their little Dinobot heist. As they discuss their plan to investigate, Captain Fanzone notices them and decides to follow them secretly. However, it's one disaster after another for Captain Fanzone, as the machines and bots he tries to use malfunction. Once reaching the island, Prowl and Bulkhead are shocked to find no sign of the Dinobots and Sari. It is, however, revealed that Meltdown has created a lair in the island's abandoned research facility and made the Dinobots kidnap Sari. This series features Dinobots in prominent roles for the first time after an absence of over 20 years, although Grimlock is the only one similar to the original. Outside, Prowl and Bulkhead finally encounter Captain Fanzone drowning in quicksand, but their questions can wait as the Dinobots attack, and Prowl gets confused as to why they are behaving aggressively. His doubts are answered when Prowl notices acid burns on the Dinobots' bodies. As the Autobots and Fanzone try escaping the Dinobots, the secret of Prowl's little heist is revealed. However, there are more things to worry about than his minor discretion, as Meltdown shows up and claims ownership of his crimes. As Bulkhead charges after him, Meltdown burns Bulkhead's chest plate, leaving him in a grave condition. Prowl and Captain Fanzone also falls through a shaft and gets trapped in an arena. Meltdown informs that he is now experimenting with human transformations, and one of the test subjects is his lawyer. Kind of fair bargain, right? However, the adults were not a good specimen, and so Meltdown wants to use Sari. Speaking of Sari, she continues to annoy Cyrus Rhodes, who is tasked to guard her. While Captain Fanzone and Prowl engage the mutants, Sari manages to escape by shorting Cyrus' pistons and locking him up in the bathroom. She uses her key to remove the laser barrier and meets Captain Fanzone and Prowl. They manage to escape the facility by a second, and Sari helps Bulkhead, who was almost dying. Meltdown arrives to stop them, but Sari distracts him so that Prowl can kick him, while Captain Fanzone captures Meltdown in a protective suit. Now that Meltdown is captured, Prowl asks the Dinobots not to follow his orders. The Dinobots agree and transform into their machine form to attack Meltdown. While Colossus Rhodes and the mutants appear, the Dinobots attack them instead. Later, as they return, Captain Fanzone starts appreciating working with the Autobots, while Prowl notes that Sari can probably take care of herself in her own way. Headmaster. Isaac Sumdac interviews a new over-enthusiastic scientist, Henry Masterson, who tries to impress Sumdac by showing off his Headmaster unit. It's basically a robot head, which somehow reminds us of Galactus, that takes over the body of other automatons and uses them like weapons. Sumdac is completely against it and fires Masterson when he accidentally launches a missile towards the city from the specimen automaton. Bulkhead is also facing a crisis of his own, as it seems he has somehow created an intimidating and destructive image of himself. As he accidentally rips off a newsbot's arm, it's clear things are not going his way. Prime calls and asks him to intercept the missile, and although Bulkhead is successful, he causes some destruction, including the total dismantling of the newsbot itself. Later, Sari and Bumblebee try to cheer up Bulkhead, but nothing seems to work. Sari even suggests art therapy, and after a few misfires, it seems Bulkhead has got a grasp on drawing and painting. Sari arranges for an exhibition of Bulkhead's artwork, but the information pushes Bulkhead into a panic attack. Masterson plans his revenge, as well as his future with the Headmaster. He watches an image of Bulkhead and conjures a plan to loot his body. It's not long before Bulkhead gets ambushed in the middle of the street and knocked out. When he wakes up, Bulkhead finds his head gone. The Autobots bring the head back, and Bumblebee teases his friend. He still agrees to help Bulkhead prepare an unorthodox art piece. Meanwhile, the police investigations take the others to Masterson's lab, where they find Bulkhead's Cybertronian technology. Sumdac confirms that Masterson's Headmaster might be the real culprit behind the body theft. As for Bulkhead, he is attached to the body of a tutor bot when he and Bumblebee catch the Headmaster on TV as it dons Bulkhead's body. Moreover, Masterson comes up with another demand of $700 billion, which should be delivered in person by Sumdac, or he will overload the nearby solar fusion power plant and destroy Michigan. However, Optimus Prime agrees to take up the offer, but cooks up his own plan. The Autobots, Sari, Isaac and Captain Funzone arrives at the point of exchange. They manage to fool Masterson into revealing his actual plan of using the Headmaster to destroy Detroit and get his revenge on Sumdac, automatically removing his competition in the market. So, even after obtaining the money, Masterson initiates the overload switch. But Isaac insists that Masterson first check out the trailer for the money. This is the opportunity Bulkhead was waiting for as he launches himself upon Masterson. Simultaneously, the rest of the Autobots also transform and fight back. After an intensive battle, the Autobots manage to subdue Headmaster, but the fight has caused the control terminal to go out, indicating an immediate fusion reaction. Masterson separates Headmaster from Bulkhead's body and tries to leave, but Bulkhead catches Headmaster with just the use of his own head. Bumblebee and Sari restore Bulkhead to his body, but they have put it back the wrong way. Masterson uses the distraction to escape by turning the Headmaster unit into a small robot. The Autobots can hardly go after him, as they must first manage the fusion reaction. Sumdak notes that someone must voluntarily go inside. Bulkhead uses his newfound creativity as he and his friends assemble a crude robot that Sari activates with her key. The robot stabilizes the core, but melts partially, and later it is displayed as the centerpiece art in Bulkhead's exhibition.
Bath time, kids!
Nature Calls. The episode begins with the premise of a horror movie, as somewhere a lone worker gets attacked by something. As for the Autobots, Prowl is unhappy with humanity ruining nature's beauty, and as he rants about it, Bumblebee and Sari remain deaf to his words. Prowl gets angry and almost gets into an argument with Bee when Optimus Prime tasks them to visit the forest. Apparently, there is non-sentient metal in the jungle with a Cybertronian signal. Sari rejoices at the prospect of a camping trip and joins them. However, it's easier said than done, as Sari lacks real experience of camping, and her only knowledge is from TV shows and movies. On the other hand, Bumblebee can barely live without TV, and has smuggled in other things. As Bee and Sari can hardly pitch the tent or make fire, Prowl takes over and does it within seconds. Prowl also destroys Bumblebee's portable media player, which might be a little extreme. However, there is no shortage of entertainment when there is a monster on the loose, and it turns out to be Cybertronian, as Sari's key glows when it's near. They fight the monster, but it appears too powerful, forcing the trio to retreat. The monster turns out to be a machine covered in space barnacles, which are supposedly found on space vessels and drain power like computer viruses. So letting it reach Detroit and infect other machines might not be the best decision. As the key shows them the way, the trio looks for the barnacled monster in a mine shaft, and the monster traps Bumblebee and Sari inside. Prowl tricks the monster into creating an opening, and Bumblebee fries the barnacles. But now, Prowl has become infected and starts behaving like a zombie. Bumblebee and Sari run away from Prowl, but end up sealing themselves inside the mine with barnacled Prowl on the loose. Bumblebee and Sari end up in a furnace room, and Sari decides to burn off the barnacles with hot water. However, before she can enact her plan, even Bumblebee gets infected. Sari manages to get the furnace on and sprays the Autobots with the hose, restoring them to their original self. The trio returns to recount their tale, but Isaac arrives at the forest later and uncovers the now de-barnacled machine from the snow. It carries the Decepticon insignia, and apparently Isaac has been looking for it for a long time. Can you guess what it is? Megatron Rising Part 1. Just as you guessed, Isaac Sumdak has recovered Megatron's body and is ready to repair it. However, there is a sudden power failure, which almost brings out Megatron's true personality, but he tries to hide it. Meanwhile, Lugnut and Blitzwing have just repaired themselves and are back to squabbling, while Starscream struggles to make them work under him. Megatron suddenly reaches out to Lugnut, and he immediately bends his knees and responds. This only lasts a few seconds, as Starscream finds that Lugnut is taking his orders from another source. Starscream acts rather smartly as he sends Lugnut and Blitzwing to get the key as per Megatron's order, whereas he tracks the transmission. The Autobots pick up the Decepticon movement, and Optimus Prime goes into panic mode, which makes him take quite a few wrong moves. At first, Bulkhead suggests they can take the help of the Dinobots, and as Prowl finally reveals the truth about them, Prime gets furious. He decides to accompany Prowl and Bulkhead to talk to the Dinobots. Next, Prime asks Sari to give them the key, but as she refuses, Prime orders Ratchet to forcibly take the key from her. This sends Sari crying and running away. Prime also gets into an argument with Bumblebee, who ignores his orders, calls Prime a bad leader, and runs after Sari. Sari is soon picked up by Black Arachnneia, but the ladies are quite on their own, as Sari informs her she doesn't have the key. It kind of serves Prime, right when Ratchet is soon ambushed by Blitzwing, who freezes Ratchet and takes the key from him. The rest of the Autobots also don't have any luck, as the Dinobots remain a confused lot. They refuse to help robots fight robots, and when Prime points out that the Dinobots are robots themselves, they start attacking each other. With no hope for the nutcases, Prime, Bulkhead and Prowl leave the island. Now for the main drama, Starscream arrives at the Sumdac Tower and confronts Megatron. Their fake pleasantries and Starscream's speech are interrupted by Bumblebee, and Megatron throws both out. Bumblebee has already ignored Prime's instructions for the second time. Bumblebee almost falls from the building, but he is saved as Megatron electrocutes Starscream. While Megatron and Isaac start their work, the other two Decepticons arrive with the key. At last, Megatron reveals his true self to Isaac. Blitzwing uses the key on Megatron, and he repairs himself within moments. Megs emerges from the tower, just as the Autobots arrive outside.
Have your fill!
Megatron Rising Part 2. It's time for war, as Optimus Prime, Prowl and Bulkhead face off with Megatron. Megs tries to take his revenge on Prowl for slicing off his hand, but Prime rescues Prowl and the two leaders face off. Although we must say, Prime is no match for the repaired Megatron. Meanwhile, Sumdac tries to escape, but Blitzwing catches him. Starscream is also about to finish off Bumblebee and debates whether he should let the Autobots take on Megatron or serve under Megatron until a better opportunity arrives. As for dear old Megatron, he now has the key to locate the Allspark, and so he calls on his Decepticons to join the mission. Starscream gets too eager to join him, but defying all of the previous Transformers lore, Megatron kills Starscream for his betrayal. However, this quick distraction has enabled the Autobots to escape. Megatron now uses his command, Transform and Rise Up, to lead the Decepticons, as he himself turns into a flying vehicle. Isaac meets the Autobots and confesses to rebuilding Megatron. He reveals how his entire robotic revolution is based on Decepticon technology. However, there are more problems at hand. For instance, the Autobots are damaged and need Sari's key for repair. Isaac suggests there's residual energy somewhere in the lab that they can still use. Meanwhile, Ratchet is in Teletran 1 and uses his scanner, which picks up Sari and Black Arachnneia approaching the frozen lake. Sari has actually double-crossed Black Arachnneia and made her move in circles so that she falls in water, and being half organic, she can't survive underwater for long. Ratchet rescues Sari before Black Arachnneia can attack her and unwillingly reveals how he lost the key. At Sumdac Tower, the Autobots are moderately repaired, but as Prime apologizes, they finally reconcile and gear up for a fight. Ratchet and Sari arrive in Teletran 1 as the Autobots, and Isaac joins them inside. However, the Autobots had some doubts about taking Isaac along. Sari is in for disappointment for the second time as she learns her own father resurrected Megatron. The Autobots decide to lure the Decepticons away from Earth, but the ship is not yet functioning at its optimum level, and so it crashes on Dinobot Island. An entire scene of Megatron defeating the Dinobots is deleted here. As the Decepticons approve, the Autobots fight back. Bulkhead takes down Lugnut, while Prowl asks Bumblebee to annoy Blitzwing so that his personalities get confused. It works as Blitzwing suddenly turns into a tank and falls into the water. Isaac realizes this might be the end and tries to share something with Sari, who rushes off to the cargo and seeks help from the Allspark, which only shows her an image of a DNA strand. Megatron and Prime come crashing into the room, and Megatron takes the Allspark to put it inside his chest. Prime breaks the Allspark crystal, ensuring it is now all dispersed. As the orb explodes in his chest, Megatron is heavily damaged and he retreats to another island. The crisis is averted, and Key is returned to Sari, but a last scene reveals that the damaged Megatron has kidnapped Isaac. Season 2, The Elite Guard. It begins with the aftermath of the battle, and the Autobots are busy making all the repairs after the damage and destruction caused by their fight. Sari is drowning in paperwork as she tries running her dad's company, while Bumblebee helps her. An 8-year-old running a company. Now, isn't that taking it too far? However, there are bigger things to worry about, like where are the Decepticons? Or what is that big ball of light falling on Earth? Well, to answer one, the Decepticons have gone underground literally as they recover from their last fight. Megatron now wishes to conquer Cybertron, and for that he needs a complete space bridge that will enable him to teleport to Cybertron. Isaac is held hostage as Megatron wants him to reverse engineer the rest of the space bridge's schematics. Megatron also finds that the Allspark is not completely destroyed, but embedded in the circuitry of a service drone. Now, for the big ball of light, it's the Elite Guard spaceship, and Captain Fanzone is not too happy about it. Optimus Prime and his Autobots enter the spaceship, just as a force field surrounds it, preventing Sari or anybody else from entering it. The fun doesn't end here, as Sentinel Prime warns Jazz that organics will spit slime, and the Earth-based Autobots are decontaminated before they present before Ultra Magnus. The Elite Guard has come to retrieve the Allspark, but Optimus informs them that it has been dispersed. Sentinel refuses to believe Optimus, and Ultra Magnus requires proof. This is the first, and probably the only Transformers continuity that doesn't have Prime as the highest rank in the Autobot army. The Elite Guards turn into military transport and monster trucks to roll out, but Sentinel's lack of awareness of Earth's traffic laws costs him some brownie points. At a Sumdac system manufacturing plant, a disaster is waiting to happen as the newly manufactured police drones get embedded with Allspark, which makes them go haywire. Powell calls Sari with the information, and it feels like there could be a hostile takeover. Sari uses her key to cut through the force field and enters the spaceship. She reunites with her friends, but Jazz gets scared that she might spew slime. Bumblebee and the rest want to leave to help Sari, but Jazz insists on joining, which also means trying out his new racing car mode. The other group enters Dinobot Island, and Sentinel's arrogance forces the Dinobots to transform and attack him. Thankfully, Magnus uses his hammer and lightning to scare the Dinobots. Back at the plant, Sari and her crew of Autobots struggle to take down the onslaught of police drones. Jazz shows off some new moves, and Prowl has some competition. Optimus also arrives with Magnus and Sentinel to give backup. They help Sari to get to the control console, but even after she has stopped the production, the key is stuck and starts to overload. When Sentinel tries to take over and blames Optimus, he finally fires back and gives Sentinel a piece of his mind. Optimus slashes the console, releasing the key and obtaining an Allspark shard that he shows to Magnus as proof. Magnus reprimands Sentinel and appreciates Optimus as a true leader. Later, Sari finds herself locked out of the office, and Powell, the newly elected CEO and chairman, informs her that there is no proof of her birth or adoption. In fact, there is no proof that she exists at all. The return of the Headmaster. Sari Sumdac is not only thrown away from her dad's company, but Powell also kicks Sari out of her room and gives it to his new employee, Henry Masterson. Sari warns about hiring Masterson, but Powell doesn't care, and also keeps Sparkplug and Tutorbot back. Sari packs her bags and arrives at the Autobots' lair looking for shelter. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime and Sentinel Prime take part in a press conference. However, Sentinel remains very condescending and makes improper remarks about Earthlings. He still remains afraid of the organics, which is pleasant to watch. Masterson and Powell watch the press conference, and although Powell expects military supplies, Masterson has other vengeful ideas as he now wants Sentinel Prime's body for his headmaster. Masterson calls Fanzone to report on Decepticon sightings, forcing the two primes to investigate together. Once again, Sentinel's arrogant spree and complete disregard of Earth's traffic lands him in soup. He gets jumped on by the Headmaster unit and calls Optimus Prime for help. Bulkhead and Bumblebee try out different things to impress Sari, or make her feel at home, but they upset her even more. As for Optimus, he can't help but laugh at Sentinel's head lying in the rubble, while Sentinel pleads with Optimus not to let anybody else know what has happened. Sentinel Prime's design resembles the Tick, a comedic superhero from the 1994 series The Tick. Both roles are voiced by Townsend Coleman and are somewhat pompous. Optimus realizes that the Headmaster has returned, and Bumblebee calls to confirm the news. The next day, Optimus walks into the Sumdac Tower and hides Sentinel's head before he is stopped by Powell, who informs him that Masterson is not there. Optimus leaves with Sentinel, and Powell calls Masterson with the update. Optimus catches on as he has already intercepted the call and traces it to a cargo ship. When the Primes arrive at the docks, they are attacked by Tutorbot and Spark Plague, who have been headmastered. Optimus fends them off, and when he finds Masterson fleeing on a ship, he gets on it with Sentinel. They encounter the Headmaster with Sentinel's body. Optimus and Headmaster go at it, and Optimus almost enjoys punching Headmaster's new host body. Headmaster also knocks Optimus's axe off the ship, so he cuts off Sentinel's arm and uses his axe to sever the head. Sentinel is horrified, but there's more, as Optimus also uses Sentinel's head as a ball to prevent Masterson from escaping. Fanzone finally arrests Masterson, but Powell arrives and shows a few logical reasons why Fanzone cannot legally arrest him. Back at the lair, Prowl advises Bumblebee and Bulkhead to listen to Sari instead of forcing things on her. This works as Sari cries her heart out and her friends console her. Later, the Primes meet Magnus, and Optimus hides the truth about Sentinel.
Bumblebee, sorry, get off!
Mission accomplished. The episode begins with news of increasing Decepticon activity across the universe. Ironhide calls Ultra Magnus to inform him that he is currently under attack and has lost a space bridge. He calls for backup, but the transmission cuts off. The elite guards assume it's because of the rumors related to Megatron's revival. Magnus decides that the Autobots of Earth must leave for Cybertron, fixated on the strategy of not spreading panic and keeping the facts hidden. Optimus doesn't approve, but has no way of going against the High Command. Sari gets more upset, as now she will be truly left alone. Amidst their discussion, Sentinel shows up and starts insulting the repair Autobots, and even asks Optimus to take a fall, promising he will get Optimus's military career on track. As expected, Optimus refuses, and Sentinel points out that he has to arrest Optimus. This episode marks every Autobot from the live-action movie appearing in this series. Meanwhile, Starscream wakes up in the middle of a floating junk island and remembers being taken offline by Megatron and takes off to find him. At their Decepticon lair, Lugnut and Blitzwing check Isaac's Decepticon signal dampener. Megatron expects a subspace communicator to reach out to all Deceptions and stop their attacks. Isaac points out that Earth's technology is too primitive to build a tachyon transmitter that can help with that, and Megatron notes there's one on the elite guard ship. The mission for the rest of the Autobots is a little more sensitive as they approach Captain Fanzone to take care of little Sari while they are gone. At the elite guard ship, Sentinel presses Optimus into lying, while Lugnut and Blitzwing steal the tachyon transmitter, and as they leave, Starscream follows. Starscream enters the Decepticon lair to confront Megatron, but again gets killed and thrown into the river. Despite not having any spark inside, he is resurrected like a ghost, as the all-spark shard lodged inside his head is keeping him alive. While Megatron finally sends out his message to all Decepticons, Starscream continues to make multiple attempts against Megatron, only to be killed and thrown into the water. After a few tries, Starscream realizes it's futile and conjures another plan. While Magnus tries to make Optimus comply, Jazz reports a sudden all-spark surge signal, and Magnus leaves with Jazz to retrieve it. Optimus also picks up Starscream's heat signal and realizes the elite guards are walking into a trap. As Sentinel tries to stop him, Optimus tricks Sentinel and locks him in stasis cuffs instead. Optimus calls on his crew, and they arrive to stop the speeding train. But let's be clear, Starscream wanted to lure out Megatron and wipe them off, And he might be partially correct as Blitzwing and Lugnut arrive. Magnus and Jazz fail to take out the stone, but don't worry. Optimus Prime rallies his team into saving the passengers, while Sari and Bumblebee use the key to retrieve the shard. The rest of Optimus's crew saves the duo from crashing along with the train. However, Starscream gets mad that his plan failed and Megatron takes him down. A falling Starscream serves as proof that Decepticons exist, but his immortality makes him invincible to the attack of the Autobots. At last, Optimus locks him in a stasis cuff. Ultra Magnus finally admits Optimus Prime is right, and he allows Optimus's crew to stay back on Earth and catch any other Decepticon, as well as collect all Spark pieces. The elite guard leaves with Starscream, and Sari is overjoyed. But the threat remains, as Megatron decides to contact his double agent in Cybertron to prepare for attacking it from within. Garbage in, garbage out. Piling of garbage has become an issue in Detroit, as Powell refuses to repair the malfunctioning trash bots unless the city pays for it. The company has, however, designed a nanobot that can break down garbage into molecules, solving the problem in a quicker way. The Autobots still work to repair their reputation as they do their own bit in helping pile the garbage into scows. However, Ratchet does more bad than good when he gets into an argument with an old man whose car got thrown into the mound and into the river. Captain Fanzone arrives to break up the fight and suggests Ratchet work on his people skills. Optimus Prime likes the idea, so he asks Sari and Bumblebee to help Ratchet. As they're about to leave, Sari's key glows, but she misses it as a bot arises, activated by the All-Spark shard. The rather confused junk bot suffers an identity crisis and follows a police blimp for help. Lugnut picks up the All-Spark signature, and Megatron orders him to retrieve it. Meanwhile, thanks to Bumblebee using a siren to clear the path, Ratchet has to unwillingly give a lift to the all-familiar couple, Spike and Carly Witwicky from Transformers, 1984. But they are expecting a child. Despite Sari's warning, Ratchet continues being his rude self and drives too fast. On another road, the police also face a new challenge when the junk bot interrupts their pursuit of the Angry Archer. He befriends Angry Archer and calls himself Worthless Wreck-Walking Pile of Garbage, so Archer names him Wreck-Gar. Archer tries to use Wreck-Gar in toppling an armoured car, and at the same time, Ratchet and the team arrive. As the armoured car approaches Ratchet, he slides off the humans to safety and tries to stop Wreck-Gar. Angry Archer steals a cannon from the armoured car and escapes, while Sari insists Autobots must catch the bad guy. To this, Wreck-Gar considers himself an Autobot and tries to catch Angry Archer. Sari and Bumblebee go after him, while the couple refuses another lift from Ratchet. Wreck-Gar fails to catch Angry Archer, but his canister falls into Wreck-Gar's backpack. Unaware of this fact, Ratchet chides Wreck-Gar and tells him he is no Autobot, as he is only good for garbage. This goes into Wreck-Gar's head as he transforms into a garbage truck and leaves to deliver garbage. Unfortunately, Lugnut finds Wreck-Gar and makes him a Decepticon instead. Meanwhile, the Autobots learn that the armed car was carrying the garbage-devouring Nanobots, which are now gone, and probably with Wreck-Gar. Since they will now be infused with All-Spark, it is essential that Wreck-Gar is caught. They soon find Wreck-Gar and Lugnut, but fighting Lugnut proves difficult as he activates the bomb punch, leveling the group, whereas the canister has leaked and seeps into Lugnut's body, causing it to corrode. The Autobots witness Wreck-Gar wrecking Lugnut in 2 parts, but worry about what will happen when it reaches Detroit. Ratchet volunteers to make Wreck-Gar understand, as he is the one who was rude to Wreck-Gar in the first place. Ratchet's apology finally helps Wreck-Gar understand he is good, and he rips off the Decepticon insignia. Wreck-Gar then vacuums all the nanobots and saves the city, before falling into the water. Ratchet fails to pick him up from the water, but at least stops the fight between Powell and the mayor. However, a last scene shows that Wreck-Gar is still alive. Velocity. While looking for an all-spark shard signal, the Autobots come across illegal speed racers from a show called Street Demon. There is another mysterious blue racing car that's the fastest of all, and even Bumblebee fails to catch up. Captain Fanzone arrests the illegal racers, and Bulkhead gets upset that Sari has hidden the fact that the races are illegal. On the other hand, Bumblebee argues that he can catch the blue racer if he is allowed to use the turbo boosters. In fact, he has a hunch it's a Decepticon in disguise. The Decepticons are also after the energy signal, and Blitzwing is put to the task. Ignoring the warnings of his Autobot brothers and pretending otherwise, Bumblebee asks Sari to secretly track where the broadcasters come from so that he can track the races. As Bumblebee rolls out at the training race, he gets spotted by Master Disaster, the host of Street Demon, who secretly uses a remote of sorts to control the blue racer. Finding that Bumblebee is in fact an Autobot, Master Disaster calls off the attack and invites Bumblebee to the actual race. However, Master Disaster appears to be all sorts of an evil guy as he hopes to increase his ratings by causing a little accident to the Autobot. As he makes his plans, the blue racer listens silently. Transformers. Transformers Animated carries a unique art style compared to the rest of the continuity. It might be due to the live-action movie's influence, although fans also think that Hasbro's focus on the movies led to the show's cancellation. On the other hand, Bumblebee and Sari's secret plans get revealed in front of Bulkhead. Bumblebee further notices Blitzwing and eavesdrops on his conversation with Megatron and learns that he too is looking for the Allspark. However, Bumblebee assumes it must involve the Blue Racer. Convinced that the Blue Racer is a Decepticon, Bumblebee manages to convince Bulkhead to allow him to race, but Sari insists on joining Bumblebee. Meanwhile, Captain Fanzone learns about the location of the next race. Before the race, Sari notices her key glowing in the direction of Master Disaster's truck, and follows it only to find the remote. She grabs it and escapes with Bumblebee while the rest of the racers follow. Bulkhead hides and prepares to follow them, but gets frozen by Blitzwing. The psychotic Decepticon pursues Bumblebee and starts freezing the roads and the tunnels, but nothing works. The situation gets way more complicated when Fanzone joins in, and his car looks exactly like Bumblebee. Sari and the Autobot pull him in just before Blitzwing destroys it. As Blitzwing continues to attack, Blue Racer comes to their help and distracts Blitzwing. Sari uses the remote to control Blitzwing, forcing him to flee. Although the remote also seems to make Bumblebee go a bit haywire, Master Disaster is caught, and Prime suggests keeping the remote in a safe place. Bumblebee decides it's time he finally sets a good example for Sari. While the Blue Racer passes by, Bumblebee thanks him and wonders who he is. Well, so do we. Rise of the Constructions. It appears the Autobots on Earth are on a never-ending and thankless repair job. Optimus Prime notes that part of Detroit's demolition is their fault, while Bumblebee points out that the Decepticons are also responsible as he observes Lugnut and Blitzwing, a whole load of supplies for Megatron. Bumblebee and Ratchet succeed in thwarting them, but only partially, as the Decepticons flee with a smaller portion of their loot. It's a surprise that the Autobots are not concerned about what the Decepticons are planning to do with all the supplies. As a bridge cracks again, the Autobots get engaged in saving it. Later, everyone leaves for home except for Bulkhead, who has somehow got his feet stuck in cement. Somewhere else, two Allspark shards get embedded into a cement mixer and an excavator, giving them life, and the duo names themselves as Mixmaster and Scrapper. The two are really rowdy fellows as they chase after a stylish sports car and make passing comments. Meanwhile, Bulkhead uses expired stuff to mix cement, causing an explosion, and he is almost impaled by iron bars when the Constructibots notice and save him. The three form a friendship and share stolen oil from a tanker. Bulkhead invites his new friends to the base, but the Autobots don't take much liking to these new folk. Even Sari wakes up from her sleep and gets angry when the Constructibots accidentally chop off her pigtail, and Optimus Prime kicks them out. The purpose of this series was to be both a bridge and a filler between Transformers 2007 and Transformers Revenge of the Fallen 2009 movies. It came as a surprise when there was much positive feedback and success of the toy line. The next day, the Constructibots saves Lugnut and Blitzwing as they were about to crash while carrying Megatron supplies. The Decepticons realize they can take the help of the fools to carry the load and dispose of them later. They do as planned, but Megatron stops Lugnut from destroying the pair, as construction robots may actually come in handy when repairing the space bridge or even constructing it. Megatron invites them inside his lair, and the Constructibots are amazed to find that even the Decepticons have a cute little pet like Isaac Sumdac. Everything works out in Megatron's favour when the Constructibots go through the blueprints and inform Megatron what else will be needed to build the space bridge and where it can be found. The next morning, Bulkhead notices Mixmaster and Scrapper are chased by police drones and saves them. Bulkhead is disheartened to learn that the Constructibots are now working for the Decepticons for a few pints of oil. He explains how Decepticons are the villains, and they are simply being used. The easily influenced Constructibots leave their stuff and go back to confront Megatron, who, of course, again manipulates them against the Autobots. The very confused and exhausted Constructibots return to the Autobot lair and demand the Allspark. They confess that Megatron's oil is smoother and get into a fight with the Autobots. At last, Bulkhead gives up the Allspark chest and offers his former friends another drink. However, he has laced the oil with the expired chemicals from earlier, and the Constructibots are unable to go too far. As the Constructibots explode, Bulkhead gets back the Allspark chest, while the Constructibots suffer memory loss. Bulkhead feels sad, and Optimus consoles him. A fistful of energon. The episode begins with Starscream's escape from the Elite Guard ship, and then moves on to the Dinobot island. Equipped with Ratchet's EMP generator and some stasis cuffs, Prowl and Bulkhead are on the island to investigate a report of a rampage. It turns out to be Grimlock, who got something like a thorn stuck in his claw. As the rampaging Dinobot was about to burn some little birds, Prowl removes the thorn. When Ultra Magnus calls about Starscream's escape, Megatron intercepts the message. He puts a bounty on the traitor, whereas Prowl tries to convince Bulkhead to join him to find Starscream, whom he suspects is hiding on the moon. Bulkhead refuses, and Prowl takes off on his own, using Teletran 1's emergency shuttle. Once on the moon, Prowl finds the wreckage of a Decepticon warship and looks for Starscream. Prowl gets called out by his teammates over the comlink, and Ratchet notes that he is acting smart as he has got some upgrades. Prowl ignores them and is able to cuff Starscream thanks to his EMP generator and super stealth kills. However, there is another player on the field, Lockdown, who for some reason is wearing a poncho to hide. Now this is all very Western, and the episode title is in fact a tribute to the film A Fistful of Dollars. Prowl and Lockdown get into a fight while Starscream escapes. Starscream destroys Prowl's shuttle and leaves for Earth, while Lockdown follows. Prowl latches himself onto Lockdown's ship and enters it. He promises to help the bounty hunter find him, and in exchange, Lockdown gives him a samurai armor to suit up. Samurai and ninjas are completely different, but let's not get critical. Also, it's a tribute to another Western story called Yojimbo 1961. Once in Detroit, Lockdown's ship again disguises itself as a building, while they transform and look for Starscream. This time, Prowl has a sidecar, which is based on the Side Bashar mech from Kamen Rider 555, 2003. The unlikely duo unusually finds Starscream too quickly, and Lockdown reveals he is working for Megatron. He ties up Prowl so that he can't follow and drags the cowardly Starscream. The rest of the Autobots arrive, except for Bumblebee, who has gone to visit an amusement park with Sari. They free Prowl, who takes off to get Starscream, and the other follows. To their shock, another Starscream in the form of a Harrier jet stops them midway. This Starscream has a different brownish colour scheme than the original purple. The Autobots refuse Starscream's offer to work together, and Prowl cuffs him using his mods. However, Ratchet points out that Prowl has knocked out a bird's nest in the process. Prowl decides to give up the samurai costume later, but first they must stop the Decepticons. The Autobots crash into the warehouse where Lockdown was about to deliver Starscream to Megatron. The two Starscreams are revealed to be clones with bombs attached. The Decepticons take off, while Prowl uses his mods to weld the clones together and throw them out into the air. The explosions happen in the air, injuring the in-flight Decepticons. Lockdown escapes once again, and Prowl cuts off all ties with him as he gives up on the mods. As for the real Starscream, he bides his time inside the Decepticon warship on the moon, with a line of clones that will help him realize his dreams. SUV Society of Ultimate Villainy. Nanosk has become young again and leads the Autobots in a chase. Bumblebee ignores Optimus Prime's instruction as he considers himself the star player, but something makes him stop, and the Autobots fail to capture the robber. Optimus orders Bumblebee to return so that Ratchet can run a diagnostic, but Bumblebee is in no mood to listen at all, and all he cares about is catching Nanosk and proving he is the fastest of the lot. However, the next villain Bumblebee and Sari encounter is the Angry Archer, and once again, something or someone zaps him into slowing down. They say that the third time's a charm, but Bumblebee might disagree, as the next crime scene involves the Professor Princess. And before Bumblebee could make any movement, he is slowed down the third time. Coincidentally, Sari's key glows at the same time, and she wonders if it's a fragment of Allspark. Sari might not be far off, as it is revealed that Bumblebee was attacked by a villainess carrying a watch thingy that slows time down. She calls herself Slow-Mo and uses a pocket watch that carries an Allspark shard inside. Slow-Mo gloats about helping each one of them in their heist. She is also the one to restore Nanosk to his youth, and the two seem to have hit it off really well. Slow-Mo suggests creating a crime syndicate so that they can defeat the Autobots, and although Professor Princess protests at first, she agrees quickly. Detroit is rocked by the crime spree, and Bumblebee is on the case, despite being thwarted by Slow-Mo. The character's name and appearance are based on Samantha Lomo, the Hasbro Vice President of Marketing. However, when the crime syndicate gets almost caught by the police, they receive anonymous help from a Hummer, which volunteers to be their escape car. The purple colour scheme tells us it's a Decepticon on the loose, but who is it? The mysterious Transformer makes a deal with Slow-Mo where he seeks help from the criminals to steal a few items. They arrive at Sumdac Systems factory, and Nanosk steals the item within a moment, while Slow-Mo takes care of the police bots. Bumblebee and Sari watch, but hide, so that they are not slowed down again. The Hummer now instructs the criminals to assemble the device, but is faced with skepticism. The Hummer notes that he needs Slow-Mo's timepiece as the last item, but she refuses. The Decepticon reveals he is Swindle and faces off against Slow-Mo, whereas Sari insists that Bumblebee call for backup. Swindle is essentially inspired by his Transformers 1984 version, while his mannerism is based on marketing pioneer Ron Popeil. Swindle finally swindles off the timepiece and then calls his old client Megatron, who says flattery doesn't get you anywhere. As Swindle continues to praise the Decepticon leader, he then moves on to showing the power of his newest acquisition. As a result, all vehicles, including the Autobots in Detroit, are frozen. Sari notices that Sumdac Tower still has power and decides to drag Bumblebee there. However, she can't do it herself, and help comes from the most unexpected place, as SUV, or Society of Ultimate Villains, helps her to get their revenge on Swindle. Sari uses her key to enter the room, and once Bumblebee is back, she encases him in a force field. Sari repeats the same with the criminals as they go after Swindle. Bumblebee manages to subdue Swindle, while Sari deactivates the device, and once everything is back on time, the Autobots arrive to help. Slow-Mo attempts to get her timepiece, but it falls into Swindle's hand. However, Bumblebee is quick to attack and uses the force field to deflect the attack, which paralyzes Swindle. The rest of the criminals still try to escape in the Hummer, but Captain Fanzone catches them. He also notes that Swindle will be stripped in the impound and sold for parts. Auto Boot Camp. Somewhere in deep space, an escape pod rocks an asteroid as a transformer gets chased by Sentinel Prime. The green-suited escapee damages a space bridge with his stingers, and as the portal opens, he escapes through it out of the clutches of Sentinel Prime. When Ultra Magnus informs the Earthbound Autobots about the escapee, Bumblebee recognizes him as Wasp, an old mentor from his boot camp days. Wasp's escape is orchestrated by Megatron and his double agent, working in Cybertron. As the two speak on the subject, Isaac secretly broadcasts it to the Autobots. Bumblebee and Bulkhead come across the partially distorted broadcast, and Bumblebee assumes Wasp is the double agent. As Bumblebee and Bulkhead leave to track down the signal, B remembers his encounter with Wasp. A long time ago, Bumblebee met Bulkhead along with Wasp, Ironhide and Longarm in a training boot camp led by Sentinel Minor, now Prime. It doesn't take long for Bulkhead and Bumblebee to become the least favourite trainees in the camp, and they are often posted for oil cleanup. On one such night, Bumblebee overhears someone speaking to Megatron, and moments later he finds Wasp exiting the place. Bumblebee informs Longarm, who suggests gathering some evidence before notifying Sentinel. Originally, Sentinel Prime was going to be Rodimus Prime, but Hasbro didn't want Rodimus to be a jerk, and Rodimus will turn up in the next season. Bumblebee tries setting up different traps to catch the double agent, but each of them fails in a glorious manner. Unfortunately for Sentinel Minor, he falls prey to Bumblebee's shenanigans every time. Sentinel punishes everyone for Bumblebee's mistake, which leads to Bumblebee getting bullied by Wasp and Ironhide, and although B takes Longarm's help, he rejects Bulkhead's help and insults him. One day, things go out of hand when Bumblebee is attacked by autocannons used in simulated combat, but somebody switches the paint to real ammunition, and Bulkhead eventually comes to B's help, while Sentinel gets quashed by his action. In the present, as Bulkhead and Bumblebee walk around the wilderness, Bumblebee gets stuck in quicksand. Once again, Bulkhead helps him, but their old arguments from the boot camps drift the two friends apart. As Bumblebee tries going his own way, he falls from a cliff and gets buried in a rock slide. Bumblebee remembers how Longarm warned him about Sentinel's impromptu checking of their locker. As Bumblebee breaks open Wasp's locker, they find a communicator there. Despite claiming to be innocent, Wasp is carted off while Bumblebee takes the blame for crushing Sentinel, saving Bulkhead's career. Although it ends Bumblebee's dream of being an elite guard, he gets a friend for life. In the present, Bulkhead again comes around to help Bumblebee. They leave together just as they were inches away from the Decepticon lair. Back in space, Wasp sits alone and buzzes about taking on the B-bot, while in the Autobot base, they contact Cybertron to inform them about Megatron's double agent. Cybertronian intelligence head, Longarm Prime, receives the call and promises to find the traitor, only to reveal moments later that he is the one and is actually the shape-shifting Shockwave. Black Friday. Sari and Bumblebee visit Meltdown in the prison to seek his help in taking down Powell, but the acidic fellow tries to make a deal, where he is freed from his undissolvable crystalline cell. Sari refuses, and just after they leave, the Dinobots arrive and kidnap Meltdown along with his cube. The Dinobots take Meltdown to their island, where he is surprised to meet the Dinobots' newest leader, Black Arachnneia. She requests Meltdown's help to purge her organic side. Meanwhile, Powell complains to Captain Fanzone about Sari and her Autobot friends, blaming them for Meltdown's breakout and showing him evidence of her visiting. But Fanzone doesn't care. Autobots magnifies the image, and notices the reflection of the Dinobots. And Optimus decides to visit the island with Prowl and Bumblebee. Amidst all of these, Bumblebee's constant chatter has gotten on Prowl's nerves, and he challenges Bee to keep quiet for a while. Once they reach the island, Prowl and Bumblebee are quickly stung and deactivated by Black Arachnneia. Optimus Prime fights back against the Black Widow, while Grimlock gets jealous as he has developed a big-time crush on the Spider. Black Arachnneia blackmails Optimus into working with Grimlock in obtaining Meltdown's genetic modifier that will be needed for the experiment to work. If you have a thing for Transformers toys, you would know that getting the Generation 1 toys in mint condition is the biggest challenge of all. Among the different toys, Optimus Prime is the priciest of all. Watching Optimus deal with Grimlock might tickle your funny bone, especially when Optimus lets Grimlock strangle Prowl and threaten him so that he gives up the genetic modifier. Now that he has all the equipment in hand, Meltdown straps Black Arachnneia to the table and starts the procedure. He kicks out Optimus and Grimlock and calls his mutants to restrain them, while he discloses to Black Arachnneia that he actually intends to purge her machine side and then use the organic side for further experiments. While Black Arachnneia writhes and screams in pain, Optimus and Grimlock fight the mutants. They get help from Swoop and Snarl, but during their fight, Grimlock foolishly sets the island on fire. In his first order of business, Optimus extinguishes the fire and then rushes to rescue Black Arachnneia. As he detaches the genetic modifier, Meltdown attacks Optimus and accidentally touches the genetic modifier, making him melt and disperse. Optimus frees Black Arachnneia, but she asks him to come close, making Grimlock jealous, and as Grimlock attacks Optimus, she escapes. However, Optimus finds that she has kept the end of their bargain and has left the anti-venom that Optimus uses to bring back Prowl and Bumblebee online. They note that it's the longest Bee has stayed quiet. This should definitely go on the Guinness Book of Records, right? It also makes Optimus think if there is hope for Black Arachnneia. Later, the Autobots return the genetic modifier to a furious Prowl, who wants Optimus and Grimlock arrested, but Fanzone ignores him as usual. Back on the island, Meltdown seems to be getting back, as the liquid starts coagulating.
Is everything okay with you guys?
Define okay.
Sari. No one's home. Prowl and Sari play around with obstacle courses when Bulkhead comes in, annoyed by the constant dripping sound, which is of Bumblebee leaking. But before anything can be done about it, Optimus turns on the news, which reports that Mixmaster and Scrapper are back to robbing oil. The Autobots leave to apprehend them, but Optimus asks Sari to stay back, as last time they nearly took her head off. On their way, Bumblebee continues to leak oil all over the road until Bulkhead puts on a sticker to stop it temporarily. As luck would have it, the Constructicons notice the trail, get a taste, and follow it. The Autobots, on the other hand, notice Blitzwing flying around, who has been tasked by Megatron to lure in the Constructicons. Although Icy Blitzwing decides not to engage the Autobots, his other two personalities refuse to listen. Bumper Robinson made a last-minute improvisation when he used a German accent to audition for Blitzwing. It's probably due to the character's German name, and so it was also hastily redesigned to go according to the accent. Meanwhile, it's a complete Home Alone situation, as Sari enjoys her time alone in the Autobot lair. She uses her Allspark key to clear the vending machines, play around with the obstacle courses, and blast music. However, soon the Constructicons break into the Autobot lair, and Sari encounters the intruders. At first, she tries attacking with a hockey stick, and sure, that was brave enough, but Sari quickly realizes she is completely outmatched, and so she sneaks out and enters the communication center from outside to contact the Autobots. Bumblebee picks up, and although she relays her problems, it's clear the Autobots are kind of struggling with Blitzwing and his personality disorder. At last, Sari cooks up a trap and lures the Constructicons with oil. Sari ensures the Constructicons slip on the oil as she escapes. Back on the streets, Optimus huddles his team and decides to apply the Omega formation. It goes more or less well until Ratchet gets captured as a hostage, but Megatron calls Blitzwing and orders him to disengage. At the Autobot lair, Mix and Scrap try to take down Sari, but the little devil uses the factory machines to beat them. The duo finally gets scared and calls it quits. The Autobots return after they leave and apologize to Sari. Blitzwing also accomplishes his goal as he finds the Constructicons and offers them oil to take them in. A Bridge Too Close, Part 1. The season finale begins with Megatron inducting the Constructicons as Decepticons and branding them. He orders Isaac Sumdac to activate the bridge, but it doesn't work, as Isaac still lacks understanding of some of the alien technology. Megatron decides to hire an expert and calls Shockwave, who is shocked to find that the best in the industry is Bulkhead, the Autobot. While Megs is preparing for his great invasion, Starscream has embarked on a different crusade. On the moon, Starscream checks out his 5 clones or seekers, each of which carries one of his personality attributes, and one is even a woman. Back on the Autobot lair, Bulkhead tries to draw an abstract-like portrait of Sari, but too many suggestions from his friends kind of ruin it. An upset Bulkhead goes for a walk, joined by Sari and then Bumblebee. When Megatron appears with Isaac strapped inside, Sari is relieved to find her dad is alive. Amid the fight, the Blue Racer arrives and Bumblebee assumes he is a Decepticon. As Bumblebee chases the Blue Racer, Bulkhead gets kidnapped. Bumblebee confronts Blue Racer, who turns out to be the fast-talking Blur from Cybertron Elite Guard, posted on Earth to spy on Megatron. John Moschitta Jr. reprises his role as Blur from the Transformers, 1984. However, his speech is more coherent as this time. He is not just repeating dialogues. At the Decepticon lair, Bulkhead refuses to cooperate and seeks help from his former friends, the Constructicons, but they don't remember him. Moreover, Blitzwing and Lugnut have brought a Headmaster unit, and Megatron threatens to replace Bulkhead's head with it to hurt his friends. Bulkhead gives in, but gets into arguments about the design with Sumdac, to which Isaac assumes that Bulkhead is trying to sabotage the bridge. Meanwhile, Blur debriefs Optimus Prime and his team as they head for the Decepticon lair, except for Sari and Ratchet, who try to get Teletran 1 online. However, as Teletran 1 fails to get online, Ratchet decides to use the all-spark fragments for a jump start. Prime and his team engage Blitzwing and Lugnut, which ends with the fastest bot, Blur, cuffing the Decepticons. Back in their lair, the bridge is activated, and it appears Bulkhead is indeed, and quite unexpectedly, a space bridge genius. The Prime team also breaks into the lair at the same time, but Mixmaster restrains them. At last, Starscream and his clones appear, thanking Megatron for the hard work. A Bridge Too Close, Part 2. The episode starts right off with the Starscream clones swooping in and attacking Megatron, while the Autobots free themselves and join the battle. Bulkhead and Isaac Sumdac try to deactivate the space bridge, but Blur, along with 2 of the Starscream clones, falls into it and disappears into space. Bulkhead tries to recover Blur, but they could be just anywhere, and he gets stasis cuffed. When Megatron gets captured by all the Starscream clones, Optimus Prime unexpectedly comes to his help. In the meantime, Ratchet and Sari try to bring Teletran 1 online using the key and the Allspark fragments. Sari is startled to find the ship can talk, and Ratchet explains it's a warrior who sacrificed himself during the Great War. Now, back in the Decepticon lair, Megatron uses Optimus Prime to defend himself, while the Constructicons fight Bumblebee and Prowl. Megatron asks them to concentrate on the head, Starscream. This gives Sumdac an idea, and he enters the Headmaster unit, using it to decapitate Starscream and take over his body. But it's a rather futile attempt to take down Megatron, as he simply blasts off the Headmaster unit from Starscream's body. Now that leader, Starscream, is in a rather awkward situation. His clones swear allegiance to Megatron. The Decepticons are a truly peculiar bunch and difficult to decipher. Meanwhile, Ratchet and Sari successfully free the ship from the cliff on which it was stuck. The origin of the Allspark is not explained in the entire series. Much of this is because it might sound dumb and ruin the mystery surrounding it. Back in the mines, Scrapper rescues Lugnut and Blitzwing, while Prowl uses a humming technique to get rid of his cuffs. However, this might take a while, as he never really finished the Cyber Ninja training. On the other hand, Megatron finally explains his Cybertron invasion plans, to which Bulkhead comments that he will still need the space bridge codes for the plan to work. Bumblebee remarks that Wasp is the double agent who could help, but proving him utterly wrong, Shockwave reveals himself to be Longarm Prime. Amidst all these talks, the Autobot ship arrives and the fight moves outside. Blitzwing, Lugnut and the Seekers attack it, only for it to transform into a ginormous Autobot Omega Supreme. Ratchet links to Omega's system and gives it the strength to subdue the Decepticons. Inside the mine, Prowl finally uncuffs himself and protects Prime as he gets hurled into the space bridge by Megatron. However, the space bridge shuts down and Megatron uses the decapitated Allspark head of Starscream for a restart. The bridge overloads and begins sucking in everything, while Shockwave informs that the destination code has been deleted. This means that anyone entering it could appear anywhere. As Megatron gets pulled in, he tries to pull Prime again, but Prime puts a stasis cuff on Megatron and sends him packing. Prowl and Prime free the other Autobots and Sumdac, but the bridge is still collapsing, so Omega Supreme again sacrifices himself by absorbing the Transwarp energies. He ejects Sari and Ratchet before getting sucked in and the bridge vanishing. The Autobots, along with the reunited Sumdacs, escape the cave in, and although Sari rejoices that her father never betrayed them, she is in for a shock. Sari finds circuitry instead of blood and flesh inside her body, while somewhere in deep space, Megatron and Starscream bicker among themselves as they float in space. Season 3, Transwarped, Part 1. An Autobot base in deep space guarded by Rhodium's Prime, Bron, Ironhide and Hotshot gets attacked by Team Char. Hotshot's leg gets severely injured, while Shockwave plays double agent with ease as he transforms into Longarm and assures Ultra Magnus' team. Blackout almost takes out the power of the space bridge, but Stryker warns him that they need the space bridge. Ironhide and Brawn get thwarted by Oil Slick, while Rodimus Prime goes offline when a vial of space rust is thrown at him. After taking down the Autobots, the team of Decepticons requests the passcode from Shockwave, but he denies, as they must still wait for Megatron and his gang, who are quite late for their mission. As for Megatron, he is currently floating with Starscream's head, and the two are still annoying each other. An agitated Starscream releases his sonic scream, which unlocks Megatron's stasis cuff. An offline Omega Supreme also appears behind them, which gives Megatron an idea. Now, back to Earth, Sari and Isaac ride Optimus Prime, but Sari is upset with her dad for keeping the secret of her origin and lying. Isaac declares that he doesn't know where Sari came from, but one day he found her in his lab, and she was in a metallic liquid form. Sari finds it difficult to believe, and when the duo enters Sumdac's office, Isaac is shocked to see it in devastated condition. He encounters Powell and Masterson in the destroyed office. Masterson tries to threaten Isaac and Sari to return his Headmaster unit, but Isaac kicks them out. Powell once again probes the issue of Sari's identity, to which the little monster goes ballistic, and her hands transform into robot-like energy exuding objects. Shocked at herself, Sari decides to stay with her own kind, the Autobots. When Optimus relays the information to his buddies, Prowl rushes out and sneaks into Isaac's lab. He snoops around the lab and makes some notes. Meanwhile, Bumblebee is upset that they have lost Teletran 1, and as Ratchet comments, they have lost a friend, prompting a flashback. In this instance, Ultra Magnus asks Ratchet if the Intel bot RC provided any information and encourages him to conduct a brain surgery to revive her memory. Elsewhere, Blur, Skywarp and Thundercracker are still warped in Mixmaster's cement. When Thundercracker uses a sonic blast to kill Blur, the speedster makes his escape and runs on Saturn's rings. Somewhere else, Megatron boards Omega Supreme, but he comes online and Megatron tricks him into transwarping into Cybertron. Omega complies, but turns up somewhere else. Back on Earth, Bumblebee helps Space Bridge genius Bulkhead bring the Space Bridge online, but gets transwarped. When Bulkhead realizes Bumblebee is gone, he suddenly finds Headmaster now on Starscream's body. Headmaster hits Bulkhead and buries him with rocks. At the lair, Ratchet still reminisces about the time when he found the code for creating Omega Supreme inside RC's head. Ratchet is snapped back by Prime, who now gets worried about Bumblebee and Bulkhead. Optimus also helps he and Isaac meet and talk to each other. They are about to reconcile when suddenly the Headmaster arrives. Although we are in the last leg of our journey here, rest assured, there is going to be classic action time, where Optimus Prime will show off his skills both as a machine and a human. Fanzone will also get a taste of the Cybertronian air. Transwarped Part 2. Headmaster wants to get his revenge on the Sumdacs, but Prime won't let it happen. He fights back, while Isaac hides Sari in a dumpster and asks Masterson to get his revenge on him. This moves Sari, and she tries to return the favour. Sari uses her powers on Headmaster, but it proves futile, and although the Prime takes a beating, he is eventually able to trick Headmaster into transforming Starscream's body, which separates the Headmaster from the body, and Masterson is turned over to Captain Fanzone. Sari and Isaac reconcile, and as they head to Sumdac Towers, Prowl informs them that his investigation indicates Sari is a protoform that came into contact with Isaac's genetic data. However, it remains a mystery as to how the protoform came to Earth. They are interrupted when Ratchet calls about Bumblebee's disappearance and Bulkhead's injury. Meanwhile in space, the transwarping makes Omega power down. And although Megatron tries to use Starscream's sonic scream, it's of no use. On the other hand, Shockwave is surprised to see the Space Bridge Nexus down. He transforms into Longarm Prime and contacts Cybertron Command. Just then, Blur arrives and, being clueless, he explains that Wasp is not the traitor, but someone named Shockwave. Shockwave, or Longarm, tries to kill Blur, but when he's unable to do so, he traps and compresses Blur in a tunnel. Back to Earth, Sari rushes in and uses her key to cure Bulkhead, but Ratchet doesn't like it. He is reminded of the time when RC gave Ratchet the access code, and he saw Omega Supreme in construction for the first time. In the present, Bulkhead figures out that Bumblebee must have gotten transwarped, and Sari helps Bulkhead to locate Bumblebee. In space, Megatron tries to hotwire Omega's body, and light from Omega's headlight falls on an asteroid, waking up the rocks. Just as the humanoid rock lords come to life, Omega transwarps away, and Bumblebee comes in his place. A rock lord swallows B, while Bulkhead catches the signal and brings back Bumblebee while he is still inside the rock lord. As the rock monsters proceed to wreck the city, the Autobots gear up to solve the crisis. Sari uses the key and transforms into a teenage, suited with armor. Elsewhere, Megatron finds that Omega has again used up all his powers and so uses Starscream's head and energizes Omega. On Earth, Sari shows off Anima Girl-like skills to retrieve Bumblebee from the Rock Lord. However, Sari's triumph lasts for a short time as she soon loses control over her body and starts attacking everyone. Unfortunately, Bumblebee gets stabbed by Sari, and the episode ends with his optics dimming. Transwarped, Part 3. Ratchet jumps in to save Bumblebee. While his memories take him back to the moment he had to put Omega Supreme to sleep. Sari continues to spiral across the street, and Optimus Prime brings the rest of the team to stop her. They surround her with steel girders, while Prowl jumps in and removes the key. Sari's powers shut down, but only momentarily, and Prime instructs Prowl to take the key to Ratchet, who, despite disapproving of it, now wants the key to save B. However, it appears Sari has drawn all the energy from the key, and it no longer works. Ratchet manages to put together Bumblebee with just his skills, but as B comes online, Ratchet informs him that permanent fixes need to be done in the plant. Ratchet orders Prowl to do the impossible task of keeping Bumblebee quiet, and rushes to join Prime. Meanwhile, as Bulkhead asks Sari to hold it in, the situation worsens as energy surges and she is about to blow. Ratchet saves the day by using his EMP generator to subdue Sari. In Cybertron, Long-Arm Prime makes a clueless Autobot dispose of the compressed blur and heads inside his office. He transforms into Shockwave and contacts Megatron, who informs him that Earth-based Autobots know his truth. Megatron calls off the attack, and Team Char has to retreat just before they engage the Elite Guard ship. On Earth's Autobot base, Ratchet finishes rewiring the now teenage Sari, and Prime brings in Isaac to reunite with his daughter. Bumblebee again begins to glow with Transwarp energy, and Bulkhead diffuses it, but suddenly Omega Supreme appears and starts attacking the Autobots. Prime and the team quickly realize it's controlled by Megatron, and they form a plan to take him down. The Autobots lure Omega into the water, and then Prowl and Prime enter it secretly, while the others keep Omega distracted. Bumblebee is given a new stinger. After taking down a few obstructions, Prowl enters the Spark Chamber and brings Omega online, while Prime fights Megatron. Amidst the fight, Starscream takes control of Omega Supreme, and this time, Omega's old buddy Ratchet speaks to him. Omega asks Ratchet to shut him down, and as Prime and Prowl are ejected from the body, there is little option left. Ratchet uses the EMP generator to no effect, while Bulkhead and Bumblebee figure out that they can use the plasma dynamic thruster to definitely transwarp Omega Supreme and his passengers. As they send Omega back to space, Ratchet helps Prowl and Prime from crashing back, and as Prime points out, it's high time he learns to fly. Later, the team ponders how to contact Cybertron, where Ultra Magnus holds a session and informs everyone about a double agent. Long Arm gets nervous and accuses Wasp, so Magnus orders that he be captured. As Magnus also comments about contacting the Earth team, Long Arm insists it's filtered through him. Outside Cybertron, Starscream controlled Omega appears, but only temporarily, as he keeps transwarping indefinitely.
Let go!
Three's a crowd. Isaac Sumdac and Bulkhead try to create a space bridge by salvaging part of the wrecked Headmaster unit and other stuff. Bulkhead uses the Allspark to activate it, but before that, the parts crash through the Sumdac tower. And although Bulkhead saves Sumdac, the tower needs repair. After Isaac and Bulkhead leave, the Allspark activates and the parts merge together. Bulkhead decides he can take the help of the Constructicons to retrieve the items that have fallen and convinces them. However, a vehicle that Isaac was riding earlier suddenly emerged, all alive thanks to Allspark. The Transformer has the same color scheme as the Constructicons and names himself Dirt Boss, the boss of stealing oil. The bossy little Constructicon threatens everyone and is about to kill Sumdac, who appeared after hearing the commotion. Bulkhead pretends to be rude to Sumdac and goes along with the Constructicon to save Sumdac. Soon, the trio of Constructicons starts stealing oil, and Bulkhead calls for aid. The rest of the team is predisposed to taking down Lugnut, who has appeared to take his revenge, and learn the whereabouts of Megatron. Lugnut uses his punch of kill everything or poke to create a crater, but the Autobots manage to stasis cuff Lugnut. Meanwhile, Dirt Boss reasons that humans have used oil for everything, but it's time they take it back. Dirt Boss orders his team to attack an oil station. This time, Bulkhead protests and attacks with his wrecking ball, but it gets stuck in Mixmaster's hand and Bulkhead is dragged into their shenanigans. Dirt Boss also has the ability to put others under mind control by using a Cerebro shell, and this time he uses it on Bulkhead. Dirt Boss makes Bulkhead go on a destructive spree, but thankfully his Autobot family comes to rescue and removes the control from his head. However, all the altercations led to a fire starting and the oil station leaking. The Constructicons climb the oil tanker, but Bulkhead uses the plasma dynamic thruster to transwarp the oil tanker out into the sea near Dinobot Island. The tanker blows up without causing any harm, but when the Autobots return to get Lugnut, they find him gone, who is freed by Ramjet, the liar Starscream. 5 servos of doom. The Autobots and the Elite Guard are on the lookout for Decepticons, and Sentinel Prime shocks everyone when he shows that he has single-handedly caught the sycophant Starscream clone Sunstorm. It comes as a shock when Prime, Prowl and Jazz accompany Sentinel back to the elite guard ship and find that Blitzwing and Swindle are already captured. Back in their base, Optimus further implores Prowl about a helmet he saw, and Prowl recognizes it. The samurai helmet belonged to Megatron, a warrior who trained Prowl when he was young. Prowl and Prime head back to the ship, and when Jazz notices Sentinel again secretly taking off, he takes Prowl to investigate. The two ninjas follow Sentinel, but he suddenly disappears, and when they return to the ship, they are astounded to find that Sentinel has caught Lugnut. Even Optimus finds it hard to believe that Sentinel is working alone, but Sentinel calls him jealous. On the other hand, Prowl is taken to another flashback of when he completed the training provided by Master Megatron. Moreover, Megatron uses the processor over matter move to open the door to the room of fallen ninjas and asks Prowl to do it. However, Prowl is able to close it partially. In the present, Prowl follows Sentinel as he talks with someone and heads out. They turn up at a stadium where Sentinel meets Lockdown and Ramjet. It serves Sentinel right when Ramjet takes off his stasis cuff. As it appears, he has made a better deal with Lockdown. Lockdown and Prowl get into a fight, and a flashback shows that Prowl once found the dojo wrecked, with all protoforms gone and Megatron dying. And although Prowl tried to save him using a spare protoform, Megatron didn't survive as his time was over. Prowl realizes that it's Lockdown who killed Megatron and ravaged the temple. He attacks Lockdown, and at the same time, other Autobots appear to stop Ramjet, who comments that he is just holding Sentinel for a friend. Prowl demands the helmet from Lockdown, but it binds Prowl. Lockdown takes Prowl to his ship, where Prowl uses the processor over matter strategy to get free. Meanwhile, the Autobots also fight Ramjet, and at last, Prowl is able to subdue him, while all he does is fight Lockdown. Ramjet is captured, but Lockdown escapes. Later, Cliffjumper contacts the Elite Guard and informs them about Ultra Magnus being severely injured by Shockwave, but congratulates the Autobots on capturing the Decepticons. Prowl also gets used to the helmet as he now starts wearing it.
I've heard your music, Soundwave. I'm not.
Human Error, Part 1. It's Christmas Eve, and Sari is preparing oil nog for her Autobot friends. Optimus is running late as he is chasing after Soundwave toys that are released by Powell, who obtained them while he owned Sumdac Industries. Optimus is still wary of Soundwave, and he is not wrong as one toy in particular stalks him. The Soundwave toy enters the Autobot base and tweaks with the oil nog, which makes the Autobots dizzy after drinking, and they take a stasis nap. When they wake up, all of them have transformed into the human versions of themselves. Prowl has turned into the guy that he uses as a hologram, and he is the only one who welcomes the change gladly. Meanwhile, Isaac gifts Sari with a Soundwave toy and a scooter-cum jetpack, which she uses to immediately take off and visit the Autobots. Optimus and the team suddenly feel hungry and head to a burger joint, where Bulkhead enjoys slurping on human food and also relieves himself. However, their intrigue and recreation soon come to a halt when Decepticons attack. Optimus still rallies his team to help humans trapped in fire, and Prowl shows off his ninja skills. Moving on, Starscream appears, and as the team attacks him, Starscream realizes it's the Autobots. However, the team gets injured while trying to attack Starscream, who goes on a rampage. Optimus and Prowl are bandaged when they discover Cybertron approaching Earth and almost colliding with it. Several other Decepticons appear, and the last of them all is Megatron. As the Autobots prepare to do the impossible and fight, Prowl realizes everything is an illusion. This helps them to fight and take down the Decepticons, including Megatron. The Autobots finally realize they are inside some kind of virtual reality, which means their bodies are somewhere else. The Autobots will themselves into transforming to their Transformer selves. At the same time, Sari explores the lair and wonders where her friends are. She finally comes across a secret underground lair and notices that Soundwave has kept the Autobots wired. Sari tries to attack, but gets hurt and promises to come back for her friends. In the virtual world, the Autobots try to leave, but a gigantic Soundwave stops them and proceeds to reprogram the Autobots. Human Error Part 2. a giant Soundwave captures the Autobots, and although Prowl uses the processor over matter strategy to escape the VR, he is quickly captured and sent back. Soundwave nears the completion of reprogramming the Autobots as he forces them to change back to humans. Soundwave also begins his invasion in the real world, where every toy Soundwave's eyes turn red, and they come out of their packaging, hypnotizing the humans. The Automans in the virtual world get on vehicles representing their alt modes and try to pursue the black vans with red lights, which represent Soundwave. However, they find driving baffling, and Ratchet drives the ambulance in reverse. Ultimately, they are all surrounded by black vans, and the Automan's eyes start glowing red. In the real world, Soundwave realizes that he can't control Sari and decides to kill her. As Sari visits her father, she finds him hypnotized and trying to kill her. Sari goes to Dinobot Island to seek help, but Grimlock attacks her. Sari fights back, and Grimlock accepts defeat, but refuses to help her. She looks for Snarl, but Grimlock and Swoop are not talking with him. This could be because Snarl has suddenly become Scrapper's pet. Sari asks Scrapper and Snarl to join her crusade, and promises Scrapper oil. She even advises the Constructicon to build a boat to escape the island. As Sari keeps looking for someone heroic, Wreck-Gar emerges from the water and volunteers to join. Sari dubs the team as Substitute Autobots, and as they arrive on the mainland, Sari instructs them to roll out. However, handling a bunch of misfits is a challenge in itself. More so when the original Autobots arrive completely hypnotized by Soundwave. At first, the substitute Autobots launch uncoordinated attacks, and instructing Wreck-Gar is a task, as he takes instructions rather literally. However, as they attack all the Autobots together, it seems to weaken Soundwave's concentration. During the fight, Prowl comes out of the hypnosis and saves Sari before she is sliced up by Optimus Prime. Now that the Autobots are out of his control, Soundwave deploys Ratbat to attack them, but Optimus uses Laserbeak as it transforms into a guitar. As Optimus destroys Soundwave, all the toys become immobile and release their control over humans. Soundwave is reduced to a tape cassette, which Laserbeak snatches away and leaves. Prowl cries over his loss, while Scrapper and Snarl return to Dinobot Island. As for Wreck-Gar, he cleans up the city, only to throw it again as a Christmas gift. Decepticon Air. While Sumdac and Bulkhead get into an argument about calibrating the newly built space bridge, Sari uses her new mysterious powers to do it perfectly and activate it. Aboard the Elite Guard ship, Sentinel Prime is contacted by Perceptor, Cliffjumper, and Alpha Trion, who question Sentinel's ability as the new Magnus when the old Magnus is still online, but on life support. Sentinel gets mad at all the indignation and orders Jazz to take a shortcut to Cybertron through a cosmic storm. It causes great turbulence and accidentally releases Swindle, who in turn releases the other Decepticons on the ship. The Decepticons attack the Autobots and take them prisoners, but Sentinel manages to send a coded message to Optimus. Swindle further gives Ramjet a cone-shaped helmet and Sunstorm a side vent-like helmet to tell them apart. Meanwhile, Sari uses Swindle's transwarped dimensional storage to send Optimus to the ship. Optimus enters most heroically and releases the Autobots. He instructs Jazz on what to do and engages the Decepticons, who are led by Lugnut. While the Autobots and Decepticons fight just outside the ship, Swindle serves himself and steals supplies. Optimus uses Sentinel as a weapon and shoves Lugnut far away. But when Blitzwing takes Sentinel hostage, Optimus surrenders and asks the Jet Twins to do the same. But it turns out Optimus had used the Cybertronian optical code to give a different order to Jazz. The rest of the Decepticons are recaptured, while Swindle flees with his loot. Sentinel offers his old position to Optimus, but he refuses, and the Elite Guard drops him back to Earth before returning to Cybertron. Sentinel takes all the credit for capturing the Decepticons and proclaims his intention to become the new Magnus to the cheering crowd. As for Lugnut, he appears right in front of Omega Supreme as it warps in the same space. This is why I hate machines. Captain Fanzone arrives at Sumdak Towers, running from police drones that have gone haywire and are attacking him. With no Sumdak in sight, and only Ratchet grumpily working on the space bridge, Fanzone asks for his assistance. However, Ratchet is too busy to help Fanzone, who gets shot at and ultimately sucked in by the Transwarp portal. Ratchet finally notices and pursues him, only for both of them to appear in Cybertron. The Cybertronians get scared at the sight of an organic, and an Autobot almost crushes him, but Ratchet saves Fanzone. To Ratchet's horror, Cybertron has changed a lot under Sentinel's order. Sentinel and his crew confront Ratchet and blame him for bringing an organic to the planet. Ratchet clarifies that it's a thunderstorm, along with Omega's presence somewhere nearby, that brought them to the planet. Just then, Omega appears in the sky, hosting Megatron, Lugnut, and Starscream. The group of Autobots heads to the Union, and Sentinel suggests firing on Omega, while Ratchet argues against it. As Sentinel tries to arrest Ratchet, he escapes with Fanzone in tow. They take the underground route to escape, and notice that somebody else has also been in the tunnels. It turns out to be Shockwave, who demands Omega Supreme's access code from Ratchet, but he denies it. Ratchet and Fanzone escape from Shockwave's clutches and corner Rattletrap, who apparently gave Shockwave an access card to the infirmary. Fanzone threatens to drop snot on Rattletrap to force him into giving up the infirmary card. However, it turns out to be a fake one, and Jazz comes to their help. Fanzone comments that he was aware of Jazz tailing them secretly. Ratchet and Fanzone enter the infirmary and get Arcee, but Shockwave has been waiting for them. Ratchet sends Arcee and Fanzone to safety as he combats Shockwave, and even succeeds in retrieving Ultra Magnus's hammer from Shockwave. Sentinel suddenly appears and assumes Ratchet is the traitor. The distraction allows Shockwave to escape with Arcee to Omega Supreme. The Union still appreciates Ratchet and Fanzone, while reprimanding Sentinel. Sentinel demands the hammer, but Ratchet refuses and escapes to Earth with Fanzone. Jazz also follows them and reveals that he is done with Sentinel and wants to join the Autobots on Earth. Inside Omega, Shockwave finally reunites with his liege and turns his body all purple. Arcee also wakes up and recalls Ratchet as the ship approaches Earth.
Last time, Optimus Prime!
Endgame Part 1. It is the first part of the series finale, and it starts off with Prowl still practicing his processor over matter on a barrel of oil with Jazz as an audience when Bulkhead and Bumblebee come rushing in. They have detected Omega Supreme's energy signature on Earth's moon. Aboard Omega Supreme, Shockwave and Megatron try to extract information from Arcee, who continues to speak stuff from her old programming. Apparently, she was a school teacher in Cybertron. Meanwhile, Starscream manipulates Lugnut and creates a distraction, enabling him to roll off into the abandoned Decepticon warship and reclaim one of his clone shells. Starscream uses a protoform to make a body for himself. When Megatron arrives, he destroys all the Starscream bodies. Megs explains that he intends to use the protoforms to create clones of Omega Supreme. On Earth, Ratchet urges Optimus to use Magnus's hammer, but Optimus refuses. He remembers taking all the blame for what happened to Elita 1 and then being expelled by Ultra Magnus from the Elite Guard. Optimus asks Ratchet to give him a flying upgrade instead. Bumblebee is further chosen to transwarp to the moon and find what's going on. Prowl meditates in front of Jazz and uses his powers to assimilate particles from the air to create an all-spark shard, indicating Earth is filled with all-spark. Meanwhile, Bumblebee sneaks around the Decepticon moon base and encounters Arcee. He sticks a transmitter-like device in Arcee's head before escaping. However, it's extremely difficult to make sense of the conversations due to all the static interference. On the other hand, Sari, Isaac, and Ratchet perfect Optimus's flight abilities, albeit with much argument. As Optimus starts soaring in the air, Slipstream notices and attacks Optimus, making him fall into the water. Shockwave also manages to get the access code information from Arcee's memory bank, but dismantles her head once he is done, thereby cutting off the transmission to Bulkhead and Bumblebee. Megatron orders Starscream and Lugnut to install the protoforms, but Megatron ensures that Lugnut receives the code so that the Supreme clones or Seekers do not attack him. Starscream points out that the Supremes still need Spark, and Megs notes that he got it from the original Omega's chamber. Megatron again blasts Starscream into pieces. Meanwhile, Prowl encourages Optimus to use the hammer, and Optimus remembers how he joined Bumblebee, Bulkhead, and Ratchet as a maintenance bot. The flashback shows how they met Prowl, the meditating bot who was carrying protoforms from his dojo when Ratchet dropped some energon cubes that destroyed Prowl's ship. The reverie is broken when Bulkhead notes 3 other energy signatures. As Lugnut finishes installing the access codes, Megatron unleashes the new Lugnut Supremes upon Earth. As the Autobots find what's coming for them, Optimus picks up the hammer. Endgame, Part 2. The Lugnut Supremes approach Detroit, and the Autobots rush in to defend. Megatron orders Lugnut to attack Sumdac Towers, and Optimus asks Sari to protect her father, while he and Prowl go forward to combat the giants. However, it takes time for Optimus to get a hang of the weapon, which results in a few feeble attempts and misfires. Ratchet continues to detect Omega's signal from the moon, and decides to transwarp and sever Megatron's control over Omega. In the meantime, Optimus creates a tornado that throws off the 3 Lugnut Supremes into Dinobot Island. However, only one goes offline, which in fact carries Megatron. The Decepticon leader asks Lugnut to send the other 2 to destroy and kill everything else. As the 2 Supremes head back to the city, Megatron transforms and joins the fight. At the Sumdac Tower, Sari joins Bulkhead, Ratchet, and Bumblebee to transwarp to the moon. Starscream reassembles his body parts and leaves the moon just before the group of Autobots and Sari arrive. They find Arcee in her lobotomized state, and Shockwave attacks them. Bumblebee and Bulkhead take on Shockwave, while Ratchet and Sari take Arcee inside Omega Supreme. Although Shockwave seems to be the winner, Bulkhead eventually takes him down with his wrecking ball. Meanwhile, Sari uses her ability to read machines to understand how to repair Arcee, and Ratchet begrudgingly follows them to bring Arcee back. On Earth, Prime takes on Megatron, while Prowl takes Jazz and slows down the clones. However, the clones are impenetrable, and Optimus informs them that they need the All-Spark. Prowl decides to use processor over matter to collect all fragments and reconstruct the All-Spark sphere. Back on the moon, Bumblebee and Bulkhead show Sari the protoform's stash, and she realizes this is where she came from. Arcee and Ratchet also work on uploading Omega's code to bring him back and severing Lugnut's control. The Autobots and Sari then board Omega to return to Earth. With the Lugnut Supremes suddenly going off, Starscream possesses them and informs Megatron that he had planted bombs in the clones for self-destruction. An enraged Megatron goes after Optimus instead, while the ninjas pull all sparks, leading to Starscream's death as the fragment inside him is also recalled. Omega Supreme also arrives and is able to take one of the clones down, but the other still attacks him. Jazz declares that they do not have enough fragments to shield the entire city, which prompts Prowl to sacrifice his own spark in completing the All-Spark sphere. A force field forms around the other clone as it goes off, but Optimus and Megatron are inside. Prowl's spark saves Optimus, but Megatron gets blasted, yet he survives. Jazz brings Prowl's lifeless body to the jubilant Autobots, and in rage, Optimus beats Megatron, who had come back to attack. However, Optimus spares Megatron's life so as not to give him an easy death. The Autobots later return to Cybertron with the prisoners and the body of the fallen ninja. The crowd rejoices more so when Omega Supreme also returns. Marvelous verdict. Transformers Animated concludes on a high, but the series has kept it light by using a child accompanying the Transformers, who themselves are quite naive. The music adds funk, and if we are completely honest, it's kid-friendly and avoids complicated plots. As for the downsides, it lacks the depth and energy of the original or Beast Wars. Megatron remains out of focus for a good deal of time, so yeah, the conclusion is fair, but that's us. We would love to know what changes you would like to make it better. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Marvelous Cartoons for more such cartoon goodness.